Great. Hold on, Commissioner Wood. So this is the December 13th ANC3C meeting. We are getting started. We've already established quorum, and that notice went out to the listservs, and now we're talking about approval of the agenda, and Commissioner McWood has the floor.
There are two additions I'd like to make to the agenda. One is to, excuse me, I also have a gold, include the Captain Bridges, who I believe is here. He told me he was going to be here to make a short update about some crimes that have been occurring in Cleveland Park, specifically two crimes on Lowell Street that many residents are concerned about, and he agreed. And also he was going to update us on the Jackson Reed shooting of a number of weeks ago. So I'd like to add that to the agenda. And then the other item I would like to have added to the
Commissioner McWood, I know where you're going to go with that. First, let's see if there's approval on the first one.
All right.
Is there separate motions? Commissioners in favor of adding Captain Bridges to the agenda, please raise your hand. And let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and great. And thank you, Commissioner Reba. Great. So that passes. Thank you, Commissioner McWood, for adding Captain Bridges to the agenda.
Thank you very much. The other item that I would like added to the agenda is a resolution that I drafted that was included in the notice, but was then not included in the actual agenda that was posted on the website. And this is a resolution that pertains to the offensive actions by some 3C commissioners and some 3C commissioners elect that I think everyone in the community is familiar with. And the resolution primarily attempts to reestablish some confidence in the community that 3C commissioners are unbiased, that we seek to represent all commissioners on all issues. And I would appreciate it if that resolution, which I think was inappropriately deleted, was put back on the agenda.
So Commissioner McWood, thank you for.
And I move that.
Yes, thank you. So your motion as chair and viewing Robert's rules, and we talked about this over the past week. It is in violation of the rules. It is out of order. While I agree with the sentiment that we need to, ensure and reassure the community that we all are cognizant of everybody's needs and listening to everybody, the rules by which we are governed, Robert's Rules of Order, state that Rule 43 states that a motion must not have any language that reflects on a member of the society's conduct or character. And your motion as a resolution does that. And I know removing the proper nouns, as you did yesterday from your resolution, does not remedy that issue, and therefore is out of order. Further, Robert's Rules, Rule 61 states that it is in the best interest of the organization to obtain a satisfactory solution quietly and informally, meaning internally. That is page 644 of the 11th edition, which I believe you and I both have. Then Rule 61 also states that where action has taken place outside of a meeting, charges must be preferred and a formal trial held. And Rule 63, which we talked about, prescribes the investigation and trial. Now, as I advised you over the past week, there were ways to remedy a resolution to make it such that it was, preferring charges, or to make it, unfortunately, more milquetoast and just talk about reassuring the community. And I see that you did not do so, and therefore your motion is out of order. Now you can appeal the ruling of the chair. And that requires a 2/3 majority to overturn the ruling of the chair if you do wish to continue in that direction.
I do wish to appeal the ruling of the chair, and I think your interpreting this incorrectly, Bo. And I've said that to you before, and I can't state it strongly enough. As I've mentioned to you and the other commissioners, I've had 2 different conversations with the Office of ANCs. I have showed them the 2 OAG memos, which I interpret as, in fact, I don't think there's much interpretation here. They are not even remotely on point with my resolution and this incident. There is no fact finding to be done here. There is no reason for a trial. No one is being accused of anything that the entire committee isn't aware of. We know what the facts are. Most of the people who were involved have already acknowledged what happened. The purpose of the resolution has nothing to do with censure. There is no penalty that I am suggesting, no punishment that I am suggesting. What the resolution does is it acknowledges to the community, whereas we have all been silent about this, it acknowledges to the community that some harm was done here to the credibility of the ANC. And I think we have an obligation to speak to it, to the community, and assure the community that this is not the type of behavior that we expect, and that we don't single out any segment of the community for ridicule or to dismiss their
Commissioner McWood, I agree with you that we should say something. It's unfortunate that it's our last meeting, yours and my last meeting as commissioners. The rules, though, if there is going to be an official disapproval, the rules are very clear about the process that takes place. And I advised you of that process and pointed you toward the rules, and you still chose not to do that. Thus, your resolution is out of order.
Chair Finley, I actually object to the manner in which you're talking to me. You're not my teacher. You're not my superior. You are the chair, and you do have the authority to interpret Robert's rules. I explained to you that I also went to an authority, the executive director of the Office of ANCs, and asked during 2 conversations whether there was anything in Robert's rules, whether there was anything in this OAG, these 2 OAG memos that would make this resolution inappropriate for the ANC to consider, and whether your actions were appropriate. And I was told that the resolution is totally appropriate, that the OAG memos do not apply, and that this is not censure, and none of the rules in Robert's rules pertaining to censure apply to this. You are describing this in a way that is not correct. It is the resolution speaks for itself.
I also spoke with Executive Director Bass yesterday for about an hour and a half, maybe even 2 hours, and he thought that my proposal about what I had told you before and how my interpretations, he did not object to it. He did not find them to be something that needed to be changed. He thought that my interpretation, which seems to be contrary to what he told you.
That is contrary to what he told me
did
twice.
Not seem, yeah, and I only spoke to him yesterday, but he did not. I sent him an email, and then we talked on the phone for quite a bit. He did not find issues with the way I was interpreting and understood my interpretation. And so the current motion that we're voting on right now would be appeal of the ruling, which is not a motion for debate, Commissioner Boucher, but it is a motion that would be voted on at this point. And
all right, that is what's on the floor, is the motion to appeal the ruling of the chair. So if there is no discussion possible, then I'd like a roll call vote, please.
I can double check whether there's discussion. We might as well make sure we're doing it exactly right. If you have ideas what it might be at in the index, I don't have it readily available. Not able to find it right now. Commissioner McWood, do you happen to know whether it's a debatable motion?
No, I can go and get my Robert's rules if.
Yeah, that's that. I was just scanning through mine to make sure.
I would err on the side of allowing people to be heard if you can't find definitive rule that says this is a non-debatable motion.
Let's see. I've found
This
it.
is transparency.
Yes, it is. It appears to be Rule 21, which I will put to in the text. Make sure we're using the same version.
Maureen, only the chair can unmute you. I can't unmute you.
Rule 21 is motion to adjourn, so that's clearly the wrong motion.
Yeah, that is not debatable.
Yes, yeah. So we cannot debate on the outside of the motion itself, right? We are debating on the appeal and whether the appeal is correct. So that is the grounds
That's germane.
what we're debating on. And so Commissioner Boucher, I see you have your hand up if you're ready to speak to that. Great, thank you. Okay, here we go.
Okay, I understand that it's challenging for you to be able to change the settings so that people can unmute themselves, the commissioners, to make us co-hosts, but that's something that you need to be able to do, because right now I'm being harassed on the chat by former Commissioner Jason McWick. Oh my gosh, I'm so upset right now. Jason Fink telling me that I haven't even lived in my SMD for years, which is hilarious because I live next door to the house that I grew up in. I would please.
Sorry, I didn't see the chat.
For you to address this.
Yes, thank you.
Possibly remove him from this meeting because it is uncalled for and horrific. And you are the chair. It's your responsibility to maintain order. And I am a commissioner. There have been too many times where I have been harassed.
Thank you, Commissioner Boucher. I know that Commissioner Paggett's worked on an investigation with you about that harassment that happened last term as well.
No, that's funny.
But the
when I was sexually harassed on the chat, that's completely different, which wasn't appropriately addressed either. I'd appreciate if you could address this now. Thank you.
I've asked Commissioner Fink to be gentle. I'll ask him to be polite.
No, I'm asking you as a current commissioner,
yes,
for him to be removed from the meeting.
So removal. Thank you, Commissioner Boucher. Removal is a little bit beyond Commissioner Fink. If you are not polite, you'll be removed. We can't just remove.
It's already happened. It's already happened.
Thank you, Commissioner Boucher. Thank you, Commissioner Boucher. Is there any discussion you have on the appeal of the ruling of the chair?
Are you asking me?
Yes, that's what I presumed your hand to be up for.
Absolutely, because Nancy McWood asked for this to be on notice. You decided that you would not allow for it to be on notice. That was your decision.
Yes, and I've explained my decision.
Okay, well, I don't agree with that. And if this is a public forum in which we are representing our communities, which is why I have always actually represented my neighbors and communities and their wants and their needs. This is a reflection of that. And to not allow that to be heard is personal for you.
So
That's where this is that's where this is going right now. You
Commissioner
can take a step
Boucher,
back and allow the resolution to occur.
Commissioner Boucher, this is about whether Commissioner McWood's resolution, my ruling as chair, was in violation of Rule 43, of Rule 61, and Rule 63 of Robert's.
Sure, I totally believe that, and I move to.
The debate is on whether my
Okay, I'll
ruling
stop
is
talking.
correct or not.
I believe your ruling's incorrect.
Okay.
I'll mute myself.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Boucher. Any other commissioners want to weigh in? Okay, Commissioner Dyer. Should have a little thing pop up. There we go.
Okay. I also believe the ruling is incorrect, and I think we should have a roll call vote on this.
Okay, well, yes, thank you. Commissioner McWood already asked for a roll call vote, so that's what we're doing when we get there. Commissioners Paget, Siddiqui, or Reba, any comments or questions about what is happening right now? Okay. Oh, Commissioner Reba.
Thank you, Chair Finley. I just don't know why, understanding the circumstances and what's occurred, why as the chair of the commission, a prominent leader in Cleveland Park, someone who has been actively engaged and have championed both sides of the aisles for years, why you can't this evening come out and publicly acknowledge the inappropriateness of these public figures.
So, Commissioner Reba, it is a question of whether the ruling is what we're discussing, not whether individual commissioners, including myself, have come out speaking about what had happened.
Well, it is a both. I do support the resolution. I think the ruling is unjust.
Okay.
This is the type of behavior that sadly we see across the United States right now. We've lost civility as a country, we've lost civility as a city, and now as a community, and it's very sad. You really need to uphold Nancy's request, and let's do the right thing.
Thank you, Commissioner Reba.
Thank you.
Okay. So again, I believe Commissioner Fink is a former commissioner. I have not received any notice that he is a former commissioner, but I did note on his Twitter profile he listed himself as a former commissioner.
Excuse me, I don't understand what you just said. Has
Oh,
Commissioner Fink resigned?
I believe so.
All right,
Commissioner,
so, all right.
Commissioner Fink, is that correct? The former Commissioner Fink?
Is that right?
I was responding to a text from or a message from our administrator, Rachel. But
Okay. All right,
the roll
thank
call, the roll call vote, I believe, will exclude former Commissioner Fink. Thank you, Nancy, for asking for clarification there. So, Rachel, could you please proceed?
Yes, Commissioner Reba.
Oh, sorry, Rachel.
Just can we make it clear what people are voting
Yes,
on?
exactly. A vote of yes is to vote for Nancy's motion to overturn the ruling of the chair, and a vote of no is in opposition.
So let me further clarify that, if I may.
Sure.
A vote yes is to effectively appeal the ruling of the chair and allow
Correct.
the resolution to be considered.
Yes, absolutely correct. Thank you, Nancy.
Okay,
Okay,
Commissioner Reba.
Yes.
Commissioner Paget.
No.
Commissioner Finley.
No.
Commissioner Siddiqui.
Oh, sorry. Let me go ahead.
No.
And then hold on, Commissioner Dyer, you're unmuted. Great. And Commissioner McWood, you're unmuted.
And Commissioner Hoyt is absent. Commissioner Boucher,
Yes.
Commissioner Dyer,
Yes.
Commissioner McWood.
Yes,
Okay. And so the vote is 4-3, which fails to reach 2/3 majority and thus fails. And we proceed on with are there any other further amendments to the agenda? Okay. Seeing none, we move, is all those in favor of the agenda? Commissioner Boucher, you seem to have a question.
Nancy, could you please make that as an announcement in public forum if it's not allowed to be added to the agenda?
That would be out of order, Nancy.
No, it's
There-
not.
there-
It's a
there-
public announcement.
No, if you want to talk about how important it is that we listen to everybody, your SMD report is there for that. If you want to criticize commissioners or commissioners-elect, there is a process for that. And we could have gone through the process, but we didn't because Nancy wanted to do it this way. But so if you want to talk about, I think we all agree that tweet was idiotic, the photo was idiotic. I mean, and it was.
So if you agree, then there should be a resolution. Thank you for confirming that for us.
A different kind of resolution, Commissioner Boucher. So so anyway, so all those in favor of the agenda as it is. Oh, actually, it's more, are there any objections to the agenda?
Well,
Commissioner McWood.
Bo, could you please unmute the commissioner?
this is
I'm
kind of
working on it.
ridiculous.
I'm working on it.
I mean, we've never been muted before
Yep.
meeting.
All right.
There's a reason for this.
Um,
I'd like
okay.
to request for a second time to please remove Jason Fink from the meeting for harassing individuals and fighting via chat. You've asked him once. This is the second time. It's up to
Okay,
you.
let me
Take a choice.
review the chat and see what he's saying here. Okay, are there specific things Commissioner Fink said that we could, or former Commissioner Fink said that we can make it easier so I don't have to scroll through this whole thing?
You may want to go up. I didn't really want to speak on this, but when a former commissioner comes on and says, we all know the author of this resolution has a legacy of division and misinformation, not nice.
Yeah, that
And
isn't.
when it said-
No,
And when
I'm
it says,
saying
and
I
now
don't
she's,
even live here.
excuse
This
me,
is unacceptable.
and when it said, and now she's becoming angry and bitter at her final meeting, that's not appropriate. I mean, it just goes on and on.
And to be clear, that wasn't just against Commissioner Boucher. It was also
Yeah.
against Commissioner McWood. So it was.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to find Commissioner Fink here, former Commissioner Fink.
Commissioner Fink also, I hate to say this, I mean, I do, but if you can't find it, he also said it was a dumb photo. So he's dismissing the actions of these individuals publicly to everyone, which is disrespectful to the residents in the neighborhood and businesses alike. That's all.
Well, I think when he says dumb photo, I assume he's saying it was a dumb idea kind of thing, but I don't want to put words in his mouth. I'm trying to find him. Former Commissioner Fink, would you hop off, please?
You
Let's
can
see.
kick him out of the meeting.
I was trying to find him and
He's out.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay, and I do think that there is something that needs to be addressed by the people who are the subject of the resolution
Right.
or not recusing themselves from this vote.
Well, that is, That is something you should have brought up prior, Commissioner Dyer. I hope the commissioners who Commissioner McWood was referring to will take a moment during their SMD reports to talk a bit about things and where things stand and how they plan on moving forward.
So then, can
Mr.
we-
Chair, may I speak to that? Because I actually have the answer. They do not have to recuse themselves from the vote on the if there had been a vote on the resolution, nor I would assume on the motion to appeal the ruling of the chair.
Thank you very much.
It is their choice, but they are not obliged to recuse themselves.
Great, thank you. Now moving forward with our agenda, are there any objections to our agenda as it is currently with the addition of Captain Bridges' brief discussion?
yes, because this needs to be on the agenda. So
Okay, so that's already been dealt with, Commissioner Boucher, and you don't get to get redos like that.
you asked.
Yes, but so are you?
I am objecting to the agenda as it stands
Okay,
because
and
current commissioners did not. I know they don't have to recuse themselves, but
okay, then your
there's a
objection
conflict of interest. Yes.
is out of order. Is
Okay,
there
thank you.
a any objections to the agenda as it is with the addition of Captain Bridges? No, seeing none, we're going to move forward to announcements. So commissioners, do you have any announcements? And please do not use your announcements to violate Rule 43 of Robert's Rules, because that will be out of order. Thank you. So commissioners, any announcements? Okay, seeing none, we move on to community forum. And this is where members of the public are invited to ask questions and raise concerns that have not already been discussed, or will not be discussed tonight. So please raise your hand and we'll call on you. You can use the raise hand feature under reactions. Cassandra, did you have an announcement from Cleveland Park Main Streets? This would be the time. Oh, Mark Roseman and Mary Lee, I'm going to ask you to unmute.
I'm unmuted.
You are unmuted, Mark. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks, Bo. Better than I think the commission is.
Yeah, I understand.
I don't know if this is in order or not, Bo, but I think it is important first to make a statement and then ask a question. The statement very simply is in reference to stuff you've said tonight. It is not the photo that was the problem.
Oh, I understand.
Well, you and commissioners who have apologized for the photo. I can pull quotes from their apologies. The photo was not the problem. The photo was the undergirding behavior and the disrespect and the disregard for people in their community, and for what I believe to be age discrimination that was represented in the action of those 2 current commissioners and 3 commissioners-elect. The question I have is to Commissioner Pagets, which is, why haven't you apologized for your participation in the photo and for the undergirding behavior?
So that is a question for Commissioner Pagets. If you choose to answer it now or answer it in your SMD report or not answer it at all is your choice.
Which do you prefer?
It's up to you, Commissioner Pagets. It's really up to you.
I mean, I'll apologize to those who took offense to the photo. I believe that I did not post the tweet. I cannot police other people's Twitter accounts. I can't apologize for posts that they've made on their own personal accounts. The group behind the sign spreads inaccurate information, practices fear mongering, and has been known to bully small businesses. I don't respect these tactics, nor do I think they're fair to the community. I'm sorry to those who took offense to the photo, but I do take offense to some of the tactics of the way that group operates. Now, unfortunately, I cannot verify whether or not my constituents or members of this community are part of that group, because the website wants to download malware on my computer, and that's kind of not my jam. So again, you know, it's difficult. I respect what you're saying, Mr. Roseman. There are likely to be members of the community part of that group. That group has not approached me personally to discuss anything, any of their proposals, any of what they want to do to make this road safer for every single user, whether they be members of this community or passing through or whatnot. It is seemingly proposing only inaction as action, and that is not a solution that I've found my constituents want for Connecticut Avenue.
May I respond, Chairperson Finley, since there's just been an allegation that has been made directly to me and
Go ahead,
about my
Mark.
behavior?
Yeah, go ahead.
I personally gathered the signatures of 37 Cleveland Park business owners and managers on the Save Connecticut Avenue petition. Jason Fink, who was withdrawn from this meeting, suggested that that was done through harassment and bullying. You have just made a similar statement. I would like you to identify one person of those 37 who signed the petition, who you can prove, not only prove, just name at this point, who you believe I bullied or I harassed.
So, Mark, I appreciate your response, and Commissioner Paggett's, you know, you can respond if you want, but this, I do not want this to descend into a he said, she said type of conversation. It's, you know, Commissioner Paggett's, if you want to withdraw that statement, you know, it might be the best way to move forward at this point, but it's something that I think the two of you should perhaps consider talking about outside of a commission meeting.
Well, let me just register this was in a commission meeting, Chairman.
Yes, and that's why I'd ask Commissioner Paggett's to consider withdrawing.
This is of record. And I believe I have been slandered. I have been slandered by former Commissioner Fink, and I was just slandered by Commissioner Paggett's. I would like to know one person.
I did not say it was you, sir. I did not say it was you that is bullying. I did not say
There are
that.
30, there
Nor-
are, I'm sorry,
nor-
Commissioner Paggett's, there are 37 business people in 3C who have signed that petition. Those are constituents in this ANC. Those are the people I'm asking you to speak to. Which one of those people was harassed or bullied?
You want me to identify the victim of harassment and bullying in a public meeting? Is that what
I-
you're asking me to do? We can.
Well,
do it
you've
offline.
identified the people who bullied
Alright.
them or
Mark.
I
harassed
move
them.
to
did not.
suspend the rules of
Hold on, yeah, this is,
suspend the rules and
yeah.
elect Nancy McWood as Officer Pro for this meeting. I believe that you're acting in violation of Robert's rules and arbitrary to what the community has asked. And you're allowing commissioners and community members to be harassed in public forum. So I'd like to move to vote to suspend you as chair for this meeting and have Nancy McWood as chair.
okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so,
Please note the motion cannot be debated and requires a 2/3 vote.
okay, so let's see. All right, let's see. So who do we have here? Still commissioners. Okay, we've got Rachel. Can you, do we have, is Commissioner, all the commissioners seem to be here still? Rachel, can you call the vote?
You don't even have to call the vote. We can raise hands.
Rachel?
Yes.
You want a roll call?
Yes, please.
Okay, hold on 1 second. I got a copy. Commissioner Reba.
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Pagets,
No.
Commissioner Finley,
No.
Commissioner Siddiqui,
No.
Commissioner Boucher,
Yes.
Commissioner Dyer,
Yes.
Commissioner McWood.
No,
Thank you, Commissioner McWood. Okay. Shall we
well,
move-
may I explain? We have a leadership structure, and if the chair is removed or can't serve for some reason, then the vice chair chairs the meeting, and the vice chair is Commissioner Pagets.
So
So
shall,
I don't think I don't think we can, by motion, change chairs.
Great.
shall we move forward with commission business?
I'm sorry.
Mr.
Would you-
Roseman, you've made an assertion that you've been slandered,
I
and
have been.
we are not a court. And so, if you want to continue with that, I recommend you.
I'm sorry, I thought you asked the commissioner whether or not she would withdraw her remarks, and I have not heard a response.
I did ask that, and in the interest of commission business, I would hope that we can move forward from this.
As would I.
And thank you, Mr. Roseman. Commissioner Pagets, do you have a response? If not, you can address during your SMD report if you feel like it.
Let's talk about it in the SMD report and get through the rest of the important business we have on the agenda. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Roseman. I hope you stick around. So the first meeting for January is, or January 18th for new ANC. Oh, we've got Bar. Ask you to unmute.
Hi, thanks, Bo. I'll keep this quick. I can't speak to the Robert's Rules issues that was being discussed tonight. I just wanted to say that I know that you were trying to speak to the issue to some extent in your kind of extemporaneous remarks, but I think it would be helpful, at least if there was something clear on the record regarding what the expectations for civility are for the commissioners, and to just have a commitment to
Yeah, that's yes, thank you. That's a good point. So commissioners and members of the public, I've had to ask this in the past. I've been remiss in not asking this at the beginning of the top of this meeting, but please keep it civil. We are volunteers here. We are all people who are engaged in our community and want our community to be better. We have different ways of thinking about how that might go. We have different ways of expressing ourselves. Some of us disagree with how others might do it. But that's something that we do have rules governing our organization, and we should be following them. So one of them is civility. So please, folks, let's all keep it civil. And thank you, Bar, for bringing that up. So the first order of commission business is, by the way, the consent calendar meant that we adopted the January 18th meeting, which I mentioned for the new upcoming ANC. The commission business begins with consideration of a resolution requesting installation of traffic calming measures in McLean Gardens. And yes, Commissioner McWood.
I don't know if Captain Bridges is here, but per our practice.
Yes.
Could he go first if he is?
Yes, he should go first.
He may have dropped out.
That's fair. I do not see.
Captain Bridges, if you're here, could you?
Click the raise hand feature, please. Alternatively, he should be able to unmute himself. I do not see him here, but
I mean, that's always a chance with police that they
have other work to do.
Yeah, things can happen. All right. I will look for him later to see if he appears. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So Commissioner Siddiqui, I believe this is your resolution if you'd like to move it forward.
Yes, Chair Finley. This is a resolution and I guess I will read the resolution and then move it, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
ANC3C resolution requesting installation of traffic calming measures in McLean Gardens. Whereas the McLean Gardens neighborhood is situated in northwest Washington, DC, bounded by Rodman Street Northwest to the north, Idaho Avenue Northwest to the south, Wisconsin Avenue Northwest to the east, and 39th Street Northwest to the west. Whereas traffic on these blocks is exacerbated due to 39th Street Northwest being used as a pass-through between Massachusetts Avenue Northwest and Wisconsin Avenue Northwest, and by the development of City Ridge, which in August 2022 opened a previously closed gate at the north end of 39th Street Northwest to two-way traffic. Whereas many residents have noticed a rise in aggressive driving in the past few years, including the running of stop signs, speeding, and turning without signaling, a general increase in vehicular traffic with the opening of City Ridge, and a crash on September 2, 2022 involving an overturned vehicle. The citation is in the resolution. I won't be reading the citations, but this is available online. Whereas residents have documented many locations that lack proper signage and other traffic, direct, and calming measures that are identified in the 311 requests and resolved clauses below in the resolution. Whereas these findings raise residential concerns about the safety of pedestrians, including seniors, disabled people, children, and pets. Whereas the local residents have also submitted 311 requests with service numbers listed below in the resolution online. I will not read them. Be it resolved that ANC3C calls on DDOT to enhance the safety of the community by requesting that raised crosswalks be installed at the following locations where crosswalks are currently unmarked. Across Rodman Street Northwest at 3807 Rodman Street Northwest to connect with the southwest corner of 38th Street Northwest. Across 39th Street Northwest at Rodman Street Northwest near 3770 39th Street Northwest, connecting the northeast and the northwest corners of the intersection. Across 39th Street Northwest at Rodman Street Northwest near 3760 39th Street Northwest, connecting the southeast and southwest corners of the intersection. Across 39th Street Northwest and Porter Street Northwest, 3700 block of 39th Street Northwest, connecting the northeast and northwest corners of the intersection, leading to Tot Lot and Park. At Traffic Island on Porter Street and 38th Street Northwest between 3811 Porter Street Northwest and 3816 Porter Street Northwest and 3808 Porter Street Northwest. Across Porter Street Northwest at Plattsburgh Court Northwest at 3880 Porter Street Northwest. Across 39th Street Northwest at Langley Court Northwest at 3551 39th Street Northwest and connecting the southeast and southwest corners of the intersection. Across Newark Street Northwest at 38th Street Northwest near 3801 Newark Street, connecting the northwest and southwest corners of the intersection. Be it resolved that ANC3 calls on DDOT to enhance the safety of the community by requesting that the unmarked crosswalks listed above be marked and made accessible to the disabled if raised crosswalks cannot be installed at these locations. Be it resolved that ANC3C calls on DDOT to enhance the safety of the community by requesting that stop signs with bump out curbs be installed at the following locations: southbound on 39th Street Northwest at Rodman Street Northwest near 3801 39th Street Northwest, northbound on 39th Street Northwest at Rodman Street Northwest near 3770 39th Street Northwest, southbound on 39th Street Northwest at Porter Street Northwest, 3700 block of 39th Street Northwest, northbound on 39th Street Northwest at Porter Street Northwest, 3600 block of 39th Street Northwest, northbound on 38th Street Northwest at level of Plattsburgh Court Northwest near 3825 Porter Street Northwest, at crosswalk at southbound 38th Street Northwest at level of Plattsburgh Court Northwest near 3601 38th Street Northwest, eastbound on Newark Street Northwest at 38th Street Northwest near 3801 Newark Street Northwest, westbound on Newark Street Northwest at 38th Street Northwest. Be it resolved that ANC3C calls on DDOT to enhance the safety of the community by requesting that existing stop signs at these locations be enhanced with bump out curbs at the following locations: northbound 38th Street Northwest at Rodman Street Northwest near 3690 38th Street Northwest, southbound 39th Street Northwest at Langley Court Northwest, 3600 block of 39th Street Northwest, northbound 39th Street Northwest at Newark Street Northwest, which is the 3400 block of 39th Street Northwest, southbound 39th Street Northwest at Newark Street Northwest, 3500 block of 39th Street Northwest. Commissioners, I just realized this is very long, so I will skip down.
So the resolve clauses?
Yes.
Thank you.
And this is again available online, so everyone can look at it. But I will read the important ones. I'll read the last four ones. Be it resolved that ANC3C urges DDOT to install the maximum amount of pedestrian safety infrastructure if the above request cannot be met for design and or legal reasons, provided that DDOT gives the ANC a written explanation for any denial, including citations to the relevant law, regulation, or policy involved, where applicable. Be it resolved that ANC3C urges DDOT to treat these individual requests in a systemic way so as to maximize pedestrian safety as opposed to a piecemeal approach. Be it resolved that ANC3C urges DDOT to consider, where possible, measures that both improve pedestrian safety and eliminate as few parking spaces as possible. For example, maintaining parking spaces when creating bump out curves for stop signs or crosswalks. Be it resolved, the ANC authorize the chair and the commissioners for 3C05 and 3C06 to represent the commission on this matter.
Thank you, Commissioner Siddiqui. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. Commissioners, any discussion on the resolution? I know we've got
Chair
some
Finley,
members of the
can
public.
I make one quick request?
Certainly.
And I just want to commend the community members who've worked on this resolution. They've been working on this for 2 months. They had several meetings with DDOT. They attended the ANC3C Transportation Committee meeting. They've looked up the relevant laws. I've been presenting it today, but this is really them who made this and did this really well. So I do want to give the representatives of the Pedestrian Safety Task Force, I guess, if anyone would like to add anything, since I presented it, and I just want to make sure if there's anything important they wanted to add. To let everyone know, the way this will work is, if it's okay with other commissioners, they can add something, then there will be commission discussion, and then we will open it up to community members as well.
Great. Lisa, I'm going to unmute you.
So is now the time for me to say something? I thought,
Hey,
We were
Swali,
gonna
is that what you're thinking?
I think Marta is.
Oh, okay.
probably
Sorry.
go first.
Sorry, Lisa. Yes. So Marta and
okay.
then Carrie. All right, Marta. Oh, you've got to click the unmute button.
I did. I must have just clicked it mute again. Sorry about that.
No
Can
problem,
you
no
hear me
problem.
now?
Yes, thank you.
Great. Hi, thank you so much. Thank you so much for hearing our resolution. We've been working on this since March, and we've had multiple meetings, walkthroughs with DDOT, walkthroughs with the community, trying to make sure that as sort of our sleepy community where 39th Street was a dead-end street, is now becoming far more active with City Ridge just to our north. And it's a dead-end street became a two-way road now. We have a lot of pedestrians, both people who live here, but also people who come to visit. And so we wanted to make sure that some of the safety infrastructure is a bit outdated. We wanted things like crosswalks to be marked so that they're visible to drivers. I mean, drivers are supposed to stop at unmarked crosswalks anyway, but we wanted to make sure those things are visible, because we're honestly getting to the point where we're concerned that like a child's going to get hit by a speeding car, and we really don't want that to happen. So the other thing is that with City Ridge, as it becomes more full, there most likely will have to be some sort of a traffic study, and so we kind of wanted to get ahead of the curve and make them think about pedestrian safety and not just about the cars. And DDOT has been working with us on this and encouraging us to talk to you. Actually, they were the ones who said, the DDOT liaison for Ward 3 said, please talk to the ANC. And that was Adam Hoyt, who unfortunately can't be here right now. But yes, so we just think this is really important because, as you saw, like there was a car that flipped over at the end of Rodman in September, and we definitely don't want someone to get injured. Thank you. And I'm sorry, I should also say there have been a number of people working on this. We held a town hall, but there have also been about 30 people at this point who've been very active in this. So thank you.
Thank you, Chair Finley. I think we can proceed with commissioner comments.
Oh, great. I thought Carrie was going to speak to that as well. Was she? I'm sorry, am I incorrect there?
Or I think if it's okay, I think we can ask
Okay,
them
okay,
in the
well,
community discussion, if that's
yeah.
okay? Yeah.
Certainly. Sorry about that, Ms. O'Brien. So commissioners, any discussion on the resolution? Commissioner McWood.
I just wanted to ask, I think I know the answer, but I just want to be sure. Commissioner Hoyt is involved with this, right? And endorses the resolution? Good, I see Ms. Kalbinski's shaking her head, yes. Good. The other comment I wanted to make is I just want to remind everyone, and I'm not sure, and maybe some of the McLean Gardens residents don't recall this, but Commissioner Bradbury, who was the ANC commissioner for McLean Gardens when City Ridge was under development, worked strenuously. I can't say how hard she worked to keep that 39th Street exit access point, whatever, closed. She knew what the impact would be. And she worked very, very hard to try to keep that access point closed and available only to pedestrians. And she failed. Actually, as I recall, I think maybe the ANC didn't support her, but I'm not absolutely sure about that. But I think the traffic impacts that you're seeing now were predictable, and it's unfortunate. But I totally support the resolution to try to impose some traffic calming and improve things in McLean Gardens. And thank you for all of your efforts. I know these things often take a lot of time, a lot of meetings, a lot of discussion, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner McWood. Any other commissioners? I want to echo Commissioner Siddiqui and Commissioner McWood on thanking the community for all their hard work on this. With that, we'll turn it over to public comment and Commissioner Reba.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to thank everybody for their collected efforts, from the Transportation Committee to the commissioners to the community at large. I didn't hear anybody mention, but I think it was in the last week or two, there was an accident on Ordway and a car overturned on Ordway as well. I put that out there because the Transportation Committee may want to get a copy of the police report, but it was pretty horrific from what I understand. And it's such a narrow street. It's amazing no one was killed from that car overturning right there at like within inches of medium rare, really. So, but again, thank you. That was my comment, to thank you to the committee, to the commissioners, and to the community at large for working on something that really speaks to Vision Zero. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Reba. Ms. Mize and then Ms. O'Brien.
I just quickly want to tell Commissioner Reba that we are discussing that at the Transportation Committee meeting tomorrow. So thank you for raising that.
Hi, thank you. I know this committee has worked really hard on this. So I'm Lisa Mize, I'm president of the board of directors for McLean Garden. And I've just got a few comments about the resolution that you're voting on tonight. And I don't know how your procedure works. If once the resolution is on the agenda, it has to be voted on in that form, or if there's any room for modification. And
there's room for modifications.
Okay, so let me just explain myself. So the board first saw the resolution that you're voting on tonight, or an earlier iteration of that, in mid-November before your November ANC meeting. So that was our first preview of it. And so thank you for pushing your vote by a month to give us some time to share that resolution more broadly with the community. So following the receipt of that resolution, the board hosted a town hall with what was then known as the Pedestrian and Traffic Safety Task Force, so they can get some broader resident input. And while the majority of the residents are clearly in favor of traffic calming measures, there were some comments and concerns which were expressed that have not been formally addressed or responded to, that fall into four big buckets. One, can the actions be prioritized in phase? Two, can we find out what's already in the queue and then prioritize what's not yet in the queue? I understand following the town hall that Christian Pinero can't see what's in the queue unless he knows what the 311 service request number is. Three, how will this impact parking? How will these recommendations impact parking? You guys know when you drive through McLean Gardens at night, it's like car on top of car on top of car. And then what are the risks associated with having DDOT do what seems like a fairly extensive assessment in the neighborhood? You know, do we end up getting more pylons like we have around what was formerly a nice community fountain, which seems like clearly an over-engineered solution? So while the questions remain unanswered from that town hall, The committee, which is now transitioned to a citizens action group, has decided to push forward to capitalize on DDOT's focus. The board for McLean Gardens, and we're a community of 1,000+ residents, therefore doesn't have an official position on the resolution, given that we really haven't had sufficient time since we first learned about it to do the town hall, work with a committee on follow-up, host a follow-up meeting, and then meet to form an opinion. So while the board clearly supports traffic calming measures and pedestrian safety, they're clearly needed. I doubt anyone would dispute that. I believe the majority of McLean Gardens residents support these as well. But the devil, as they say, is in the details, and it would be good for McLean Gardens as well as Vaughan Place residents to have a better understanding of how all the requested actions, if implemented, will impact them. This group's worked very hard to get this resolution to where it is now, and I think there is wide appreciation for their work and their efforts. I understand they were counseled to throw all the requests on the table to see what will stick, but I wonder if there's an opportunity to phase the requests to prioritize those measures that are less study intensive and could therefore be made more immediately, such as the children at play signs, the speed humps, the marked inaccessible crosswalks, and the bump out stop signs where there are physical impediments which otherwise block the view of the stop sign, and temporarily hold the other measures that require additional study or surveys until they can respond to questions already raised by residents and can engage the wider community on the proposed measures. I think that might be a good compromise, just to quickly move forward on the measures most people would likely support, while buying a little more time to respond to current resident concerns and questions and have more of a dialogue with the community. Totally not advocating for progress to be halted. We know we need to make some changes. I just think that McLean Gardens residents who attended the town hall are likely expecting some sort of formal response to their questions, as well as additional information, and might be a bit surprised if the resolution moves forward in substantially the same format without having had those comments and concerns addressed. I think the larger neighborhood might also like to know more about what's being proposed. We, for instance, did not invite Vaughan Place to our town hall, and it's not clear to me what's been shared with them. So thank you, Citizens Action Group. I don't know what your formal name will be yet, for putting together such a thorough and comprehensive list of suggestions. And thank you, ANC commissioners, for hearing me out tonight.
Thank you. Commissioner Siddiqui, did you have any response to that, or shall we keep going?
Let's just keep going, and then I might respond at the end to kind of some of those.
Ms. O'Brien, thank you for your patience.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm used to saying that because I'm a teacher and I've been on Zoom many times and speaking for long periods of times, and I'm not being heard. I am a resident of McLean Gardens, and I am fully in support of the resolution as it is written. I am a parent of a young child. I am outside all the time. Our neighborhood is not safe. The traffic is increasing tremendously as Wegmans has opened. I will speak to my own personal experience, and I interact with many parents in the neighborhood in playgrounds and at play dates, and I don't see people being in opposition to what the task force has come up with. So the fact that the board has distanced itself from this measure, I don't think speaks volumes to the McLean Garden community as a whole. And I want that to be something that is taken with a grain of salt. Like, I don't think that McLean Gardens is severely questioning these measures, and there's no written proof that McLean Gardens is in opposition to the resolution as it is written. I am worried that we are just going to push this further and further back, and we're going to have an accident. I know this is not, DDOT needs to come in and bring our neighborhood up to code. We are not in code. That was very clear at the town hall that our DDOT representative said. I mean, he was stunned by some of the places where you have to try to cross in our neighborhood. I just think holding back on this, we're going to regret it because the adults are having problems finding ways to cross the street. Think about the kids. I mean, I have a 9-year-old. I'm starting to send him out on his own. I really hope that this resolution passes because it's necessary for the safety of the residents here. And I understand there are parking concerns, but I'm sorry, this is bigger than parking. This is dangerous. There are just not good places to cross, and there are now cars going at speeds above the speed limit. They're on their phones. This is something GDOT needs to come in and do. And I think the resolution is very well written, very well thought out, extremely well thought out. Kudos to the task force committee for doing this. And I just want to say, as a McLean Gardens resident, I fully support it. And I know there are people who can't be at this meeting tonight that do as well.
Thank you, Ms. O'Brien. Lucia, I'm going to ask you to unmute. There we go. You're good.
Thanks. I'm also a McLean Gardens resident, and I also fully support the resolution as it's written. I have an old dog, and she's very slow and crossing the street. So I don't have kids. I'm not an older person, but you know, I have an old dog, and she walks really slow. And there have been times where I've been like, I either need to drag her, or we might be flattened. So I definitely, and I park on the street. We do have a parking space. Someone in chat had brought up parking lots. There are a number of off-street parking lots. They're owned by unit owners who can either choose to park in them, rent them, or leave them empty, as is the case in the lot that my spouse parks in. It's empty a lot. So that is something that the board can look into, is what are our lots being utilized for, to address the parking thing, which is not a part of this resolution, as has been stated. So even though I park on the street and it might mean that I need to park a little farther, I'm okay with it. I realize that's privileged because I don't have mobility needs and I can park farther away. But there is a way, we have solutions available to us. So I'm in favor of the resolution, and I thank the task force for how hard they've worked on it, and I appreciate how thoughtful it was.
Thank you. Mr. Terabini.
Hello, I'm also a resident of McLean Gardens and a parent of a small child who I confess is not walking age yet, but will hopefully be walking age someday soon. So the first thing I've lived here for only a couple of months, but we just bought the condo here and it's a wonderful community. But the very first thing I noticed was that people go far too fast on these two-way roads that have parking on both sides. And very few crosswalks in a community of either elderly people or people with small children. I know we just heard an example of someone who doesn't fit that, but McLean Gardens has a lot of retirees or people with small children. That's just the demographic of this community. And we have parking, luckily, on both sides of the street. But when you go to cross the street and there's no crosswalk, you have to go out like this and look left and look right, because there are cars blocking your vision. So it's just a matter of safety, that cars are moving at 30, 35, even 40 miles an hour. That's going to get someone killed eventually. I'm fully in support of the measure as written. I am a member of the Pedestrian and Traffic Safety Task Force committee. And thank you, Marta, for all your work on this resolution. I fully support it as written. So thank you for hearing us out.
Thank you. Ms. McCarthy.
Hi, thanks. I actually sent in fairly extensive comments this afternoon, and I won't repeat what I said there, but I'm here just to say I support the resolution. I was actually not active on the task force. I greatly appreciate the work they did. As some of you may know, I used to be the pedestrian council rep for Ward 3, and I also served in the Major Crash Review Task Force. And so I'll just quickly say, one of the crashes that we reviewed involved a child trying to cross the street, very much like 39th Street, a local street where the access to the park he wanted to go to was blocked by parked cars, and he was struck and killed by a driver driving down the street, not speeding. We talk a lot about speeding, and it is a major concern, but children are small, and like old people, they're especially vulnerable. And can be killed even by a driver who is not speeding. Anything that we can do to slow drivers down and force them to slow down using physical infrastructure, in my view, is the way to go. So there's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McCarthy. Mr. Sikich?
Hi, thank you. I'm a resident of McLean Gardens. I worked on the task force. I'm also on the board of directors of McLean Gardens Community Owners Association, and I'm in full support of the resolution as is. As we've explained to the residents in several meetings, the purpose of this resolution is to get DDOT's attention. The resolution contains a big wish list of items. We don't know if we're going to get one of those items. We don't know if we're going to get 30 of those items, right? But too many residents have waited too long to get some of these measures in place. I think only one of the comments so far tonight referenced dog walking, and that's another tremendously big constituency in our neighborhood are dog walkers. So between the abundance of dog walkers, the abundance of families with small children, and the abundance of older residents that might not get around as well, there is a wide consensus among residents to get the city to act on some of these measures. So I thank everyone for the work. I thank you for the opportunity tonight, and I hope it passes as written. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Ben David?
Hello, can you hear me okay?
We can, we can see you too.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for having this important forum for discussion. I also support the resolution, certainly in its intent, and for the majority of I would say the majority of the recommended measures. I have some concerns about the actual wording of it. I think it could be, I think I have some minor recommendations that I think could help create more guidance for DDOT, because I think the way that it's worded could give the impression that, and maybe that's what the task force intended, that it's anything and everything they can get, rather than perhaps a more prioritized order of measures in a certain priority. And it doesn't seem that it's worded in that way. At least I didn't see anything in the draft resolution that provides any kind of like guidance in terms of orders of priority. And, you know, as somebody, I do have my own parking space after years of not having my own parking space. So I'm very sensitive to the difficulties that people encounter in that regard. And if there are other means of accomplishing the same goal, that I think that it should be more explicit upfront that there is some kind of order of preference in terms of how things are implemented. And, you know, there is a stop sign right now that doesn't seem to get much traction from cars. So I'm not sure that putting in 7 new stop signs is really gonna be more effective than, say, raised crosswalks. So I don't know where to make specific suggestions, but I do think that the draft could be slightly improved in terms of giving DDOT the direction that would result in the best outcome. And I say that as somebody who's horrified by the measures that they put in near that fountain on Porter Street near the McLean Gardens Ballroom. Frankly, it looks like an airport runway right now. And I don't know if DDOT just comes in and does whatever they think is appropriate, or do they consult the neighborhood once things get into their hands? Is that just like you take what you get and just deal with it? But I was kind of shocked at what I saw at the fountain. Anyway, thank you.
Chair Finley, you're muted.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Commissioner Siddiqui, did you want to interject with something? I see your hand is up near Commissioner.
I just want to quickly say in this response to an earlier comment too, that we as a community can we can't tell DDOT what to prioritize. DDOT will make its decision on what they think the most safety thing is. My hunch is they'll go after the things that are not up to code first, but there's a lot of stuff that's not up to code. But again, DDOT's going to do a whole traffic safety investigation. They're going to go through a whole process. We don't have the engineering know-how to be able to prioritize. So I just wanted to make that particular thing clear. But we can continue with community comment.
Thank you, Commissioner Siddiqui. Thank you, Ms. Ben David. Ms. Northam?
Hi, thanks very much. I definitely support this resolution. I've been living in McLean Gardens for 19 years now. I live right at the end of 39th Street, right at the gates of City Ridge. And I know that traffic has always been very swift, certainly 39th Street turning on to Rodman. I'm one of those dog owners. I got my dog 7 years ago and spend a lot of time outside, so I see traffic. And there's no question since City Ridge has opened up that it's much faster, almost to the point of reckless now, you know, with delivery drivers, trucks, everything else like that. And what's really worrying is the demographics have changed over the years. We have so many younger children now, babies, toddlers, that type of thing. Certainly the dogs, City Ridge have their people there also are using our area, which is great for their dogs as well. And I just want to say personally, like, you know, a couple of months ago, I was getting very upset about it. Because I just felt, what can I do about it? And somebody actually told me about the task force. So I went and sat in on the first meeting and it was great. And then they said, we're organizing this tour and, you know, to tour the area, see what needed to be done, what we think should be done, what we hope will be done. And I was really impressed. You had representatives from the mayor's office there. You had DDOT. I hope he's not on here because I don't want to embarrass him. He's a sharp young guy, knows his stuff very well. We had management there. We had a great collection of residents. I've been to other meetings since the town hall. The DDOT guy, Christian, showed up. He stayed to the very end. It was overflow crowd. It went long. He answered every question that everybody had there. It was really impressive. And at the end of all this, I mean, he explained that the mayor was upset. There's been too many pedestrian deaths, that they are trying to do something. It's not just sort of this big black hole of DDOT anymore. At the end of the day, I guess what I feel is that something can be done. I wouldn't have said that a couple of months ago. And that's why I support this. You know, it's a huge wish list. There's no question. But we've got buy-in from the stakeholders right now, the mayor's office, DDOT, you know, Adam, everybody else like that. And so I just hope that this will get pushed through because I think it will make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Northam. Ms. Solomon? Asking you to unmute.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, thank you for putting this on the agenda and of course the work of the Citizens Task Force on this. I wanted to thank Nancy McWood, especially, hey Maureen, for you know, mentioning Angela Bradbury's efforts because they were very thorough, and I just wanted to provide a little background on that. And that was in 2019, and DDOT had come through, and there were a number of measures they couldn't implement for whatever technical reasons they have. I don't know if anything on this list is, everything on this list is DDOT ready or approvable. But I will say back then, and I've lived in McLean Gardens for over 20 years. I'm also on the board, and what Rodman Street is now going to experience, we experienced on Newark Street when the new Giant development came online. And with cars racing out of the Giant, cutting through Newark over to Massachusetts Avenue. And we tried for many years to try to get speed humps. And I'm glad to hear that apparently the procedures changed and you just have to dial 311. Back then, we were supposed to get 3/4 of the residents on the block to sign a petition. And that was annoying. I mean, because we're a multifamily residence, and it is that the population density has gone up a great deal. And the two primary things that residents are concerned about is absolutely traffic calming and the preservation of parking and the need to balance those. A number of residents are concerned that people don't even stop at the stop signs. And so that's an issue. You know, how can we make the stop signs we have effective? And maybe raise sidewalks is the way to do it. Speed limit. So we're also wondering, I've seen places like over by the National Cathedral School. I think there's an odd sign on Idaho Avenue, right off of Massachusetts Avenue. That's like a slow 15-mile-per-hour sign. I don't know why that's there. It might be because the church hosts nursery schools there. They used to have a charter school, but we now have a big nursery school effort up. It's called Communikids up at Idaho and Newark. And those kids are brought down Newark Street every single day en masse, attached to a rope or they're holding onto a rope. And so they're going down to the park. So what I didn't see on this list is the issue of slowing the traffic down. And I'm sure it's also debatable as to whether DC drivers pay any attention to speed limits. But yeah, we've got dog walkers, community garden people, the children's park, the dog park. There's a great deal of pedestrian activity here. And I would hope that maybe we can also slow it down. You've got more cars coming through the neighborhood, whether it's Lyft, Uber, all the deliveries that take place now. I mean, these guys are in and out flying around. The association doesn't really have an ability to increase parking in our lots. We've got an unusual situation with one of our lots where we have an offsite owner who owns multiple spaces that are sitting empty. And I don't know if we can deal with that or not. We'll try to, but anyway, so just what some of our residents, Debbie mentioned what took place at apparently as a result of a 311 call in front of our community center. This thing just popped up. And that's where you're going to find people who are concerned that you've got this very long list, and whether or not, as one resident commented, it's going to turn us into some kind of, if it could, is DDOT, would they overreact? I mean, hopefully, presumably they wouldn't, but I've seen other neighborhoods where there's been an overreaction. And this is, I don't know, maybe we can talk to them and they can come view the community, what they did here. There was one other thing I wanted to mention. So what has happened in terms of, let me just mention one other thing with parking, and this does not mean I think parking is more important than pedestrian safety. It just is another reality in this community. And it happened on Newark with the Giant starting up, is people would park and they go up and they run in and they get their dry cleaning. This is absolutely inevitable. And it's going to start happening now with roadside. When people realize they can walk in that back door, they're going to start parking on Rodman. They're going to start parking on 39th Street to run in, do their errands, maybe visit their friends if they have friends who move into the complex, rather than drive through that complex and go into the parking lot. Having said that, what has happened in other neighborhoods in DC, when you've seen a big commercial development go up, is the city has done something to protect the residential parking that's already there. So whether it's changing the zoning, adjusting the zoning, the resident parking permit only, we've seen it off of 14th Street with that big development that went up about 10 years ago or so. I think the city first instituted that special parking as a result of the baseball stadium and those streets. So I think that's something else that needs to be on the list for DDOT. How do we preserve resident access to be able to park on our own streets? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Solomon. Ms. Duggan?
Hi. Let me flip you around. Hi, thank you very much. This is my first ANC meeting, and I don't even know if I know my name anymore. How do you people do these meetings? These are a marathon and a half. Holy cow. I remembered what I was going to say maybe 3 hours ago, but my goodness. Okay, so here's what I would say. I am a resident of McLean Gardens. We have 2 children who are in elementary school. I am not on the task force. However, I fully support their work. We have 2 children. There's no way that I can spend time going to all of these meetings and speaking out for what's right. And so I appreciate you, the commissioners, voting for what's right, which is to pass this forward to DDOT so that they can do their job to keep our city streets safe. And I now have a child who's out of bed. But listen, thank you very much in advance for your work. And yes, thank you. Thank you for letting this get onto DDOT, the engineering professionals who will make the best decisions and research what our community needs to keep our streets safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Duggan. Ms. Kalbinski?
Can you hear me?
We can. Thank you.
Great. Hi. I just wanted to clarify just a few things. So the resolution is obviously worded in a very technical way because that's actually what, I mean, first of all, it's a resolution. And second of all, that is actually how DDOT asked us to organize it. So it is prioritized in the sense that the things that come high up in the resolution are the things that we're most focused on. So that would be crosswalks, right? And then everything else perhaps is a little bit less important, if that makes sense. We did actually originally approach DDOT with this by area, right, by intersection, because that's how that seems logical to people, right? And they actually do have that information. And then the other thing is that parking is a really important issue. I mean, I have a car, I park on the street. I also have a child. And I see other people's kids running around the neighborhood, right? And I'm concerned about them. But parking, we're really focused on the pedestrians and on the walkers, and parking is a legitimate thing that we need to be concerned about. I do want to comment that, in fact, the delivery people who go into Wegmans are actually parking in our lots already. So, you know, these are all things to think about. However, the most important thing here is that nobody dies. So basically, I just wanted to clarify that like we've been trying to answer the questions as best we can. DDOT, we sort of threw everything the way we did because DDOT told us, Christian told us, do that, put in everything and we'll see what the engineers say. They're the experts, they'll decide, is this actually a place where we can legitimately put in a stop sign or not? Because the regulations might be that they can't, right? But at least we're sending the message of, please slow people down here, whether that's with a speed bump, whether that's with a raised crosswalk, that's the goal of it, it's a speed bump built in, or whether it's a stop sign. Yeah, people blow through stop signs, but we're doing our best to try to throw in a number of factors, make things visual, make things physical, to slow people down. The bollards that everybody's upset about at the fountain had nothing to do with us, but they are an example of how any resident can put in any 311 request, and DDOT can come in and put that in without any input basically from the community. I mean, it's a little more complicated than that, but the reason those were put in was because the people noted it as speed. That's why we're noting it as pedestrians and as crosswalks, because DDOT looks at that differently. They're less likely to install something like bollards, which, like, my concern there was, where are you going to put the crosswalk now, right? So the focus really is, DDOT, please look at this from the perspective of the pedestrians. We aren't the engineers. So yes, I'm hoping that the experts will come in and take a look at this and make the best decisions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kalbinski. Ms. Thomas, I'm going to ask you to unmute. There we go. Great.
Hi there. I'm a McLean Gardens resident for over 20 years, and I was also on the task force. And the task force put in a phenomenal amount of work. They walkthroughs, meetings, all of that sort of thing. However, there's some things that sort of concern me. One of them is resident input, and there was only one town hall. That was the only time there was any opportunity for residents to say anything. My concern is that all kinds of interesting ideas come up from that kind of input. For example, as Emily pointed out, the residential parking permits, the area of 38th and Rodman is a nightmare in the morning because of Sidwell Friends parents coming into McLean Gardens, flipping a U-turn at 38th Street and then going back out. That really isn't terribly well addressed in the resolution. And one of the things that came up at the town hall was the possibility of one-way streets. For example, Rodman one-way going north-south, no, east-west, and Newark going west-east as a possibility. And these were all things that really haven't had a chance to be discussed. That plus the fact that Vaughan Place residents really, to my mind, should have some kind of say. So I'm just pointing out that while there was a lot of work by the task force, it didn't give residents an opportunity for input that I think probably could have helped out a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. And I'll point out that, this isn't the be all end all of traffic safety and pedestrian safety improvements in McLean Gardens, and that in the new year, ANC3A will be representing McLean Gardens and Vaughan Place. So folks there will be duly represented and can talk to their commissioners about moving forward on new matters. I'm sure Commissioner Siddiqui will be happy to help out with that too. Sorry to volunteer you there, Commissioner Siddiqui. Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Ms. Weaver.
Hi, thank you for having this meeting. I wanted to, I live right at the end of 39th Street, right at the circle. I park on the circle a lot, and the last 6 months has just been a drastic change, as has been mentioned. I just wanted to say just how fast these cars are coming out of City Ridge. They come out and they come around that circle. A lot of, it seems a lot of drivers appear not to really know the area, and they get a little distracted and then they just zoom away. They're lost, they're confused. They seem to just have no regard to what's going on around them. And so I fully support the resolution. I also want to push back a little bit on the idea that residents have not been able to know what's going on. I am not a member of the task force, but I have listened in on meetings. I've got on the email address because I can't attend all the meetings, but I've been able to listen to what's going on. So residents have had an opportunity if they took advantage of it, maybe not in town halls, but certainly the emails have been going out and the invitations have been there for residents to be involved in this task force in any way that they can. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Lenzer, and it's great to see you, Ms. Lenzer. I'm going to call on you since you haven't had a chance to speak yet.
Thank you, Bo. I just want to speak to something that's a little bit tangential, and it has to do with one of the gateways to McLean Gardens, which is Newark Street. As the block between Wisconsin and Idaho on Newark is often ludicrously congested, and I think it's highly unsafe. What happens is that Uber drivers stop right on Newark Street, just west of the intersection with Wisconsin. Cars can't come into Newark. They can't turn from Wisconsin onto Newark. And it's all because the way that block was designed was with bump outs, thinking DDOT at the time thought that the whole block would be like a pedestrian walkway. Well, they didn't know about Uber and Lyft and everything else. So that is a very dangerous situation. And it would be great if somehow MPD, which is only right there on Idaho Avenue, could somehow enforce regulations and not allow cars to stop where they do. That's just a comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Mize, if you want one more comment, and then I think we're going to be moving back to commission discussion and
Yep.
voting on it.
Thank you. Just very quickly, and I've been posting in the chat here, but it would be great if the committee could just reply to the open questions and concerns from the last town hall. Again, I'm concerned that residents don't fully understand what's in the resolution or what it will do or what et cetera. So if they could just take some time to formulate a response to the questions and issues that were raised in the town hall to close that loop with residents, that will be terrific. The board will be happy to disseminate those responses when they're ready.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Siddiqui, shall we move forward? Do you want to talk a little bit more about it, or if you've made any amendments based on this?
Commissioner McWood has her hand up.
Oh, Commissioner McWood, sorry, didn't see there. So it's Commissioner McWood. I'm sorry. I went to ask you to unmute, and at the time we did at the same time, and I muted you. I'm sorry.
Okay. After listening to all the comments, I'm wondering, Commissioner Siddiqui, if you would consider a friendly amendment, which would simply be, I've got some language here, but would simply be to urge DDOT, after they go through this very long list of traffic calming measures, to come back to the community with their assessment and their priority list, to give the community some warning as to how DDOT is responding to the list, and also to continue to engage the community with DDOT. What DDOT, as you well know, often does with 311 requests for speed humps, speed tables, all those sorts of things, they no longer talk to the community about it. They just put them in, and the ANC commissioner gets a couple of days notice that they're coming and they're being put in. Now, most of us are happy about that, and may have actually originated the request. But in this case, it seems like the community has been very engaged, and the community should continue to be engaged, because this is a whole community plan for traffic calming. It's not just one block. So here's the language that I suggest. Be it resolved that ANC3C requests that DDOT meet with the McLean Gardens community after reviewing the resolution to discuss how DDOT may prioritize the traffic calming requests.
Commissioner McWood, thank you. I was also going to think about something like that, so I appreciate you writing that. I accept your friendly amendment. Could I ask for a friendly favor for you to paste that amendment in the chat, if that's possible?
Sure.
Just so, and you can paste it at any time.
Okay.
I also appreciate Ms. Lenzner's suggestion. So maybe I will add one other line that be it resolved ANC3C requests, traffic enforcement also be improved along there, in the McLean Gardens area, something like that. If everyone else, if the community is okay with that. Yep, I think everyone will be for more enforcement. Okay, awesome. So those two I think will be added.
Commissioner Siddiqui, could you do a favor for on behalf of the commission, once most of us are off this commission, could you send this along to 3A as well in the new year once they have emails?
Yes, I'm already in touch with the 3A commissioner that will be representing this area. So
is that Commissioner-elect Bradley Lewis?
Yes.
Great, I see that he's here, so thank you. Great, is there any further discussion among commissioners about this? And Commissioner Siddiqui, do you need a second to draft your sentence regarding Ms. Lenzner's recommendation?
Yes, be it resolved that ANC3 request traffic enforcement be increased in the McLean Gardens area. That's it.
I love it everywhere, but
Second. Sorry.
Commissioner Paggins?
Oh, yeah, I'll second what he's adding.
Okay, and Commissioner Boucher, did you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I just wanted clarification. Mr. Lind mentioned in the chat that the block between Wisconsin and Idaho is not part of McLean Gardens. Do you know which block he's referring to? That's in the resolution?
Mr. Lind, are you willing to unmute and help resolve whatever issue might have arisen here?
Sure. McLean Gardens pretty much ends at 38th and Newark. It doesn't extend beyond 38th Street, so it doesn't even go up to Idaho. I believe that the commissioner before, Angela Bradbury, was very in on the Cathedral Commons, and the city approved what was done there. Nothing was forced on anybody. That DDOT came out with that measure, and nobody I think Cathedral Commons opened 7 years ago, and I've heard no chatter on the listserv about this situation. Now it's coming up.
I'm just asking because that's my SMD and I'm
Yeah.
Heights. So I'm just asking what block you're referring to, because if you're talking about a block that's not in McLean Gardens, we should remove it from the resolution?
Yeah, you should, because it shouldn't be part of the resolution if it's not part of McLean Gardens.
Oh,
Wait,
It's a separate issue.
Well, yes. So is the resolution as written, does it contain something outside of the purview of what everybody here thought they were discussing? Commissioner Siddiqui, that's a question for you.
I believe not, but I'm happy to remove it if there is, or also Commissioner Butte, if you wanted to co-sponsor anything, that's also fine.
Yeah, I'm just asking which part, like I'm looking at the map right now. I'm asking which section, Mr. Lin, that you think is included that shouldn't be there. That would be helpful.
Well, that wasn't even part of anything that we talked about. When you look at all the blocks and everything, we never looked on the walks that I went on. We never looked at that area. That's not part of McLean Gardens.
Which area?
The part that Margaret was talking about. Toledo Commons is not in McLean Gardens. It never.
Yeah, but
That's correct.
But the part Margaret was talking about, that's not in the resolution.
Okay.
Okay, I just want to make sure it's not part of the resolution.
Yeah, Margaret was making she said a
the
tangential comment, but I
Yeah.
want her
I just want to
input
make
to
sure
go
that's clear. That's not part of McLean Gardens.
No, that hasn't been inserted at all.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
because as you get to Macomb, right?
No.
Down 39,
No.
that's not part of McLean Gardens. So
No, we're talking about Newark.
that wasn't
Newark, we're talking about Newark to Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Great, thank you all. And so any further questions, comments? I think we can move to a vote. Commissioner Siddiqui, is the resolution amended?
That Newark block shouldn't be included. The last Newark to Wisconsin block is not.
It's not in there. It's not in
Okay,
there.
thank you.
And you've got Commissioner McWood's language?
Yes, Commissioner McWood, could you paste it in the chat?
I typed it into the chat. Did you not
Okay,
get
thank
it?
No.
If somebody was typing you directly, Commissioner McWood, it may have gone to them instead of to everyone.
Yeah, instead of to me. If you send a
Oh.
direct message.
I sent it to everyone, but I'm getting a lot of direct messages here, so that's
Yeah, I
probably
don't
the
see it
reason.
in everyone chat, Nancy. So you might just want to make sure it's in that right to line.
Okay, and my cursor isn't working now. I'll tell you what, I'll
Can you
can
email?
I just email this to you?
Or how about
That's
Commissioner
fine.
McWood, if you read it right now, I'll just type it in the chat.
Oh, okay. Be it resolved that ANC3C requests that DDOT meet with McLean Gardens community after reviewing the resolution to discuss how DDOT may prioritize the traffic calming requests.
Could you slow down a bit there? I've got McLean Gardens Committee after reviewing the resolution to
Resolution to discuss how DDOT may prioritize the traffic calming requests.
Great, thank you. Okay, there we go.
Thank you. Yes, I accept that as a friendly amendment. And
Great, there's a typo there, Commissioner Siddiqui. ANC was auto-corrected to and.
Yep.
Yeah, so, okay, thank you, commissioners. All right, with those amendments, are we ready to move to a vote, commissioners? I hope so. Great. So commissioners, all those in favor of the resolution as amended, please raise your hand and keep it up so I can see it. Okay.
Lee Bryan has his hand raised.
Yes, I see that. Thank you, Commissioner Pagets. Great, and then resolution passes unanimously. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you to the McLean Gardens community for all your hard work on this. And thank you, everybody, for patiently going through that. All right, next up on our agenda is the consideration of proposed bylaw changes to comport with DC law. You may recall from our October meeting that we went over these. These are because the districts have changed and the commission's boundaries have changed. The commission bylaws have to incorporate the new boundaries pursuant to DC law. And we read through them in October. You have to read them according to the rules. So please bear with me here. Here's the second reading of the proposed changes. Section 2, the boundaries of the, and I'll paste in the chat. Section 2, the boundaries of the commission are those established by DC public law. As of January 2nd, 2023, the approximate boundaries are as follows. Located in Northwest Washington, DC in Ward 3, all streets are located in the Northwest quadrant. Beginning at the intersection of Springfield Lane and Tilden Street, then east along Tilden Street, then south along the center line of Rock Creek, then northwest along Massachusetts Avenue, then west along Whitehaven Street, and west along the northern boundary of Dumbarton Oaks Park, then northwest clockwise along the property line of the United States Naval Observatory, then west along Calvert Street, then north along Wisconsin Avenue, then east along Woodley Road, then north along 36th Street, then east along Porter Street, then north along 35th Street, then east along Rodman Street, then north along Reno Road, then northeast along Springland Lane to the point of the beginning. That is copied and pasted from DC law, changing the boundaries. So the language is correct, and pursuant to Commissioner Reba's recommendation in our October meeting, we'll have a footnote on that to point to the DC law on our website once the bylaws are amended. Now, because this is bylaws, it requires 2/3, and I believe there are 8 of us here this evening, or I'm sorry, there's 7 of us here this evening. So that means that 5 of us need to support it. But yes, so is there any discussion, commissioners? Is there any discussion from the public? Okay, so we'll move to the, and is there a second? Sorry, I should ask for a second.
Second.
Thank you. Great. So all that being said, commissioners in favor of the bylaws changes as just read, please raise your hands. Okay, and keep it up. Got 1, 2, we've got 6. Okay, is Commissioner Boucher here? We've got 6, so we've got.
She's trying to get back in.
Okay, great. I just admitted her again. But yes, we've got 6, so the motion passes. Thank you very much, commissioners. We'll update our bylaws, and the new ANC will not have to deal with that, which hopefully they'll like that. All right, next up, we have consideration of a resolution regarding the Endangered Animals Art Project. Commissioner Paggets, I believe this is your resolution.
Indeed it is. Do you want me to read the entire thing, post in the chat? What should I do?
Can you share it and then maybe in the interest of time, read the resolve clauses?
Sure thing. I'm putting it in the chat and not just to Rachel. Okay, so yes, this was posted with the notice. I think there is like one minor type of edit, and thank you to our friends at Cleveland Park Main Streets and Woodley Park Main Streets for providing me with most of the text to just copy and paste. So this is on the resolution regarding the Endangered Animals Project, which is the community focused public art project that we're Cleveland Park Main Streets and Woodley Park Main Streets in partnership with the Capitol Hill Arts Workshop are proposing to expand up here to Connecticut Avenue and Northwest. For a little bit of background before I read the resolves. So what we're asking here is therefore it be resolved that the Advisory Neighborhood Commission 3C expresses its support for the partnership's participation in expanding the Endangered Animals Project along the Connecticut Avenue Northwest corridor. Be it further resolved that ANC3C expresses its support for the partnership's application for public arts building community grant from the DC Commission on Arts and Humanities. Commission on the Arts and Humanities. Sorry, I just wanted to get that abbreviation right. The commission authorizes the chair and commissioners for 3C03 and 3C05 to represent the commission on this matter.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Paggets, for presenting that. Commissioners, is there any discussion?
Chair Finley, I believe Ms. Blumenfeld might have a presentation. She might want to.
Oh, great. Thank you very much, Ms. Blumenfeld. Did you need to share a screen?
So I think Cassandra was going to share her screen. We can be really, really quick, especially if you all feel like you have the information you need. But Cassandra, I'll pass it to you first.
Okay, Cassandra, I've made you a co-host so that you can share your screen. Let me know if you're having any difficulties. We'll try to fix that immediately.
And Miss Blumenfield, you're from the Capitol Hill Arts Project, right?
Yes,
Sorry.
I'm from CHA. Thank you all so much for considering this project. We're really excited to expand it, and it has brought a lot of joy in Capitol Hill. So really excited to bring it up to Northwest.
Yep, good evening, everyone. Given that we've all been, I'm Cassandra Hetherington, I'm the Cleveland Park Main Street Director. I'm working with Robert Mines, the Woodley Park Main Street Director, and Hannah Jacobson Blumenthal from CHA. And we want to bring public art to the 10 select lampposts between the Woodley Park and Cleveland Park metro stops. And just given that it's almost 9:30 and it might be some people's bedtime, I will just show you a brief, quick.
The new public art project is bringing endangered animals to the streets of Cleveland Park and Woodley Park. Organized by the neighborhood Main Streets and Capitol Hill Arts Workshop, the project will install 10 sculptures of local animals on lampposts in between the neighborhood metro stations. The organizers plan on hosting events around the pieces throughout the year to build community, highlight the neighborhood's connection to the National Zoo, and raise awareness of DC's at-risk animals. Read more about the project at The Wash.
So that's just to give you a little idea of what the project is about. We are in the process of trying to raise funds for the animals, which we then will use to apply for a matching grant from DC Commission on Arts and the Humanities. And I'm happy to answer questions. I know Robert and Hannah are happy to answer questions, and I'll put all of the website information in the chat. So yeah, thank you very much for letting us have this time.
Great, thank you very much. And now, commissioners, any discussion? Anybody from the public like to weigh in on this project or the resolution at hand? Okay, then we'll move to a vote. Commissioners, please, if you're in favor of the resolution, please raise your hand and keep it up. All right. Thank you. And if you're opposed, please raise your hand. Commissioner Reba, I saw your hand went up. Don't worry, during supportive side. And if you're abstaining, please raise your hand. Okay, great. So the motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. And thank you, Ms. Blumenfeld and Ms. Hetherington. And thank you, Commissioner Pagets. So we are now moving on to another Commissioner Pagets resolution, I believe. Consideration of resolution regarding Department of Public Works zero waste plan. Is that correct?
Indeed. So how do you want me to handle this one? Because this is a bit.
Yeah, this one's a little more complex.
Different.
So why don't you read the whereas clauses as well and the resolve clauses? And I imagine, given the email traffic within the commission, that there will be some discussion on the matter.
Okay, it is a bit lengthy if I'm going to read all of the bullets under the.
So how about this? Why don't you use your discretion to choose which whereas clauses you'd like to include, but please read all of the resolve clauses.
Okay. Well, I think, yeah, it's definitely going to help to give the community some background. And I did put into the chat the wrong Google Doc link, but I meant to put in the link to, sorry. Hold on, I have too many things open. The link to the resolution. Thank you, Swally, you got that. Can you also put a link to the draft framework plan that the comments are linking to, that allow the public to also comment on their own? So this is to provide comment on behalf of the full commission at a fully noticed meeting. So this is a resolution regarding the Department of Public Works Zero Waste Plan, whereas the District Department of Public Works Office of Waste Diversion is seeking feedback from the public on the Zero Waste DC Plan draft framework. This is also, I should note, the second revision of this. The plan, so there's 2 tabs on that sheet. The plan is designed to reach the goal of diverting 80% of the district's waste away from landfills and incineration by 2032, as introduced in the Sustainable DC Plan, and codified into law through the Sustainable Solid Waste Amendment Act of 2014. Based on the most recently reported data in 2018, DC's waste diversion lags regionally and nationally and has struggled even more due to the impacts of the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic. The Zero Waste DC Plan draft framework will be crucial for DC's dedication towards clean and healthy neighborhoods, sustainability, and environmental justice. Whereas Advisory Neighborhood Commission 3C has reviewed the District Department of Public Works' recent revisions to the Zero Waste DC draft framework, the commission provides the following feedback on specific language and provisions in the current draft framework, including reduce per capita waste generation, and these are all the headers in the plan. The commission encourages consideration of producer accountability mechanisms along with programs like Save As You Throw, which provide financial benefits, incentives to residents regarding recycling and composting. The commission also encourages the draft framework to clearly differentiate between pay as you throw, charging for throwing out trash to incentivize recycling and composting, and Save As You Throw, providing financial incentives to encourage recycling and composting. The commission appreciates the addition to accountability requirements for DC government operations, contracting, and procurement, and strongly supports the proposals within this goal overall. Transition from single use towards reuse is another header. The commission appreciates prioritizing the location of hydration stations within communities that face the highest levels of water insecurity and vulnerability to extreme heat, and believes historical and current exposure to lead in water should also be taken into account. Reliance on composting containers should include consideration of standards for composting. The commission strongly supports the proposals within this goal and notes the importance of legislation, policy, and oversight in implementing these actions. Increased recycling and composting participation and accessibility. The commission appreciates the call to study the district's public space regarding refuse recycling and pet waste containers and to improve the design of these receptacles. The commission encourages consideration of including the preliminary draft language regarding smart bins to track waste generation and schedule collection prior to overflow. In addition, in light of the DC Department of Public Works practice of removing public trash cans for supposed misuse, a problem created in part through insufficient collection from residential buildings with 4+ units, the commission believes it's essential to note that public trash cans and trash collection are an essential service and should be implemented to meet need. Removal of public trash cans where trash is being placed in those cans through misuse or otherwise is never a desirable outcome. The commission appreciates the addition in the revised draft framework that all existing multifamily residential properties must be retrofitted by 2032 to include sufficient space for the separation of recyclable and compostable materials. The commission has observed challenges with regard to trash and recycling services and collection for residential buildings with 4+ units. The lack of certain services, including bulk trash collection, as well as the lack of enforcement for services that property owners should provide, including trash and recycling collection, has created a system that substantially favors homeowners. The commission urges the draft framework to include expanding the District Department of Public Works trash collection to include residential buildings with 4+ units. Establish resilient zero waste operations and infrastructure. The proposed zero waste campus should include an assessment of possible negative environmental impacts on the local community along Benning Road Northeast, particularly as related to hard to recycle materials, to ensure the district is not over concentrating pollutants in specific areas of the city. Build an inclusive and circular local economy. The commission supports the proposals within this goal. Increase education and enforcement community-wide. The commission urges the consideration of equality and accessibility equity and accessibility and outreach to communities, food waste education and training, zero waste, outreach and education, and public surveys should take into account steps necessary to reach communities most impacted by litter, disinvestment, and inadequate city services. These actions should also include language access. Enforcement should be targeted towards corporations, developers, and property owners, and should not result in depriving communities of public goods like public trash and recycling cans, green space, or benches. Too often, the commission has seen communities punished through the removal of public amenities for actions that require systemic action. Protect the environment for a cleaner DC. Similar to the above, the commission reiterates that enforcement for littering and illegal dumping should be targeted towards corporations, developers, and property owners, and should not result in depriving communities of public goods like public trash and recycling cans, green spaces, or benches. The commission encourages collaboration with the District Department of Energy and Environment to further develop this goal in particular. So here we go with the results. Therefore, it be resolved that Advisory Neighborhood Commission 3C calls on the District Department of Public Works to consider and incorporate the commission's feedback into the Zero Waste DC Plan Draft Framework. We have further resolved that ANC3C calls on the mayor and DC Council to fully fund efforts to achieve the goals in the Zero Waste DC Plan Draft Framework, and the DC Council exercise robust oversight of the District Department of Public Works and other agencies to ensure the implementation of the draft framework's goals. We have further resolved that the commission delegates Commissioners Chanel Pagets, ANC3C03, and Swale Siddiqui, ANC3C05, to represent the commission in all matters relating to this resolution. We have further resolved that in the event designated representative commissioners cannot carry out their representative duties for any reason, the commission authorizes the chair to designate another commissioner to represent the commission in all matters relating to this resolution. Be it resolved that consistent with DC Code subsection 1-309, only actions of the full commission voting in a properly noticed public meeting have standing and carry great weight. The actions, positions, and opinions of individual commissioners, insofar as they may be contradictory to or otherwise inconsistent with the expressed position of the full commission in a properly adopted resolution or letter, have no standing and cannot be considered as in any way associated with the commission.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, thank you. That's gonna be my question. Commissioners, is there discussion of the resolution at hand? I know there was some email traffic, so I thought there would be. Okay, Commissioner McWood, did you have any discussion of the resolution? Or any comments?
No, there were some things that I found to be sort of odd, and I questioned, but the resolution is so detailed and lengthy that I'm not going to pursue those comments now.
Okay, well, thank you. Anybody from our lovely listening audience and viewing audience who has any comments about the resolution as it's been presented? Now's the time for discussion. All right, hearing none, we'll move to the vote. All those in favor of the resolution as read, please raise your hand and we'll, okay, thank you. Any other commissioners? I can't see Commissioner Boucher, but okay. And so all those opposed, please raise your hand. Okay, Commissioner Boucher. It's a no, okay. So Commissioner, all those abstaining, please raise your hand.
I didn't turn,
Okay, thank you.
didn't mean to oppose. I wasn't.
Okay, okay. How'd you vote, Commissioner Boucher? I mean, just for the count, it's not gonna be roll call.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes, 5 votes for, no opposition, and 2 abstentions. Thank you all. Moving on, Commissioner Siddiqui, I believe this is your resolution. A resolution honoring George Idelson for his service to the Cleveland Park community, DC, and the United States.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Finley. I think this is really my honor to be able to read this. We have, and I see Mr. George Idelson is here as well. So perhaps Chair Finley, if it's okay, after I read the resolution, we probably give him a chance if he would like to add anything. Actually, we should give him his choice if he would like to add anything after the community and everyone else has commented, or if he wants to comment first. That's also fine.
Absolutely. Yes, I would love to hear from Mr. Idelson this evening if he is game for addressing us.
Whereas Mr. George Idelson first moved to Washington, D.C. in 1950 and bought a home in Cleveland Park in 1967. Whereas Mr. Idelson served the Cleveland Park community in a multitude of ways, including being elected president of the Cleveland Park Citizens Association from 2000 to 2009 and serving on the board of the Tregarian Conservancy. Whereas Mr. Idelson has served Washington, D.C. in a multitude of ways, including as a board member of the National Mall Coalition, a trustee on the Committee of 100 on the Federal City, and on the board of the D.C. Federation of Citizens Associations. Whereas Mr. Idelson is a World War II veteran who fought in the Battle of the Bulge and has served the United States honorably. Whereas on November 30th, 2022, French President Emmanuel Macron honored 5 American World War II veterans at the French Embassy in Washington, D.C., one of whom was Mr. George Idelson. Whereas on November 30th, 2022, Mr. George Idelson was made a Knight of the Legion of Honor, France's highest honor. Therefore, be it resolved that ANC3C honors Mr. George Idelson for his service to the Cleveland Park community, the city of Washington, D.C., and the United States. Be it further resolved that ANC3C expresses its appreciation and gratitude for those contributions and wishes him well in all the years to come. Be it further resolved that the ANC authorizes the chair and the commissioner for 3C05 to represent the commission on this matter.
Thank you, Commissioner Siddiqui. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners Baggett and McWood. Is there anybody in the commission who'd like to say anything in regards to the resolution? Thank you, Commissioner McWood. I imagine you would.
I also asked to co-sponsor this resolution, so I hope my name could be added, and I suggested that all the commissioners might want to co-sponsor this. It's an honor to talk about George. And frankly, while the Legion of Honor medal is a unique and extraordinary recognition of the United States liberation of France and the soldiers who participated in the Second World War, one of whom was George. And I don't want to discount that in any way. To me, George is and has been such a valuable member of the Cleveland Park community. His contribution to the community is unparalleled. He is a mensch in all respects of the word. He brought so much information, intelligence to the community. His chairmanship of the Cleveland Park Citizens Association for many years was a model. Every month, Saturday morning, it was standing room only in the library. Council members showed up just to listen, but often also to participate. George covered every topical issue of importance to the community and often the city. He brought us leaders from around the city to talk to the community. It was his contribution was just invaluable, and I think he really created a model for the Cleveland Park community as to how to engage on issues, how to participate, that it was important to do so, that you could make a difference. And he demonstrated how the community can come together on issues, even when they may not be in alignment on every aspect of an issue. He also is one of the sweetest, most generous persons you would ever want to meet. And if commissioners and the public don't already know George, you should make every effort to try to get to know George. He's also contributed invaluable help to the Committee of 100 on the Federal City. He's been chairing our speakers committee for our membership meetings, and again, he does very much what he did for the Cleveland Park community when he was the chair of CPCA. He's also been involved with the Coalition on the Mall, which is a sort of groundbreaking group, and I believe George was one of the founding members of that group, trying to bring some organization and forward thinking to some of the critical issues facing the mall. I could go on and on about George, but I know it's late. And I hope this will be the first of many recognitions of George and his. He really does epitomize the Cleveland Park community. And I want to just provide one anecdote. I first became aware of George during a community meeting at the police station when I was actually standing in the hall because the community room was filled to the brim, and the topic was the Giant. This is in the early days. It was a different ANC at the time, and and this man in a tweed jacket, and I think he had a cap on his head, raised his hand and spoke, and he was so elegant, so eloquent. He was elegant too, but he spoke briefly, but very persuasively, and the entire dialogue changed after George spoke. And I think that really epitomizes George. That's the way he conducts himself, and he is always thoughtful. He is always generous and listens to people, and tries to find common ground. And I am beyond overjoyed to honor him tonight with this resolution.
Thank you, Commissioner McWood. I know we've got kind of a dwindling number of commissioners. Commissioner Boucher left, but any other commissioners want to weigh in? But before we turn to our viewing audience and hopefully get a chance to hear from George himself.
I think Ms. Koff put a very nice comment in there. Applaud Evelyn Adelson as well. And I will second that. I'll just add a small comment myself. My very first CPC Cleveland Park Citizens Association meeting, I actually the first people I met when I walked in the room was Mr. George Adelson and Ms. Evelyn Adelson, and they were incredibly welcoming and incredibly kind.
Thank you. I do want to echo all the plaudits for Mr. Adelson. I met George at the Cleveland Park Club I don't know, 6-7 years ago, and I've only seen good things from him, heard good things from him, and heard good things about him, and I'm really glad he was a part of our community. He's been a part of our community for so long, and that doesn't even touch upon what he's done for our country. So thank you. All right, let's hear from folks in the audience. If anybody would like to, I see Bar, please.
Hi, thanks, Bo. I'll keep this brief, although I don't mean to reduce the significance of it, but Nancy really said it all. I don't know George as well as probably many people who are on this call. I got to know him principally as I got more actively involved with CPCA, particularly when I was, encouraged to become president of it. I went to see him as one of my initial meetings as I kind of got to know the neighborhood better. And just as Nancy was saying, he was just such a wonderfully kind, thoughtful advisor on issues. And his legacy was well known to me before I even got involved with the board. Anyway, so I just wanted to just endorse that CPCA heartily endorses the resolution by the ANC. We're taking our own action as well. And I just wanted to thank you for taking the time to do this. It's very well deserved. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? I see Carrie and Judy here. I know a lot of people here have already spoken lovingly of George. So I understand, not rehashing now, but if anybody wants to, they're more than welcome to. Okay, and Mr. Idelson, if you are up for it, we'd love to hear from you. And if not, we understand.
Okay, can you hear me?
We certainly can, sir.
Well, there's nothing much I can add to that. I except to say thank you very much. Nancy, I really like that part about the mensch. That's to me the highlight of that. I appreciate it very much. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, sir. So now we move to a vote.
And I just want to clarify, Chair Finley, I took Commissioner McWood's friendly amendment and I've co-sponsored every commissioner on the resolution.
Thank you, Commissioner Siddiqui. So I think, okay, so now knowing about that amendment, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, and oh, good, Commissioner Rebo's here, great. And all those opposed, I see no opposition. All those abstaining, no abstentions. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Idelson. Thank you, Mr. Siddiqui, for proposing that. And now we move on.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner McWood.
I'd like to make a comment. I've consulted my Robert's rules in two different places, and an appeal of the chair is a majority vote, not a
majority. Okay.
Majority, and a majority.
Can you point me to that rule, please?
It is under using incidental motions. There isn't a number for it in my Robert's rules.
Okay, or if you're if you go to the page number.
Page 118.
Okay, what version are you using by any chance? I'm hoping.
Webster's New World Robert's Rules of Order, 2nd edition.
Okay, let's see. So at the top of mine, it says it has a little bit of it has the rule number listed up there. Does yours have that too? Up on the top of the page?
No, it's chapter 9.
Okay, chapter 9. Okay, so we have different versions. The incidental motions, I'll look that up.
My rules say 2/3 votes are required for limiting or closing debate, suspending or modifying a rule, taking away membership or office, motions that close nominations, and preventing the introduction of a motion.
So I see the 2/3 or preventing the introduction of a motion, which was what my ruling was. I'm looking at
but under appeal of the chair, of the ruling of the chair, it's a simple majority.
even for adoptions of motions that would have the effect of suspending a rule or order of the members.
It doesn't differentiate.
Because I've got when it let's see, let me go through this again. If there are any other experts on Robert's rules who wish to chime in now with specific rules, that would be wonderful as we all try to get to the bottom of this.
the under appeal from the decision of the chair, the purpose to disagree with the chair's ruling and let the members decide the disagreement by taking a vote. Needs second, motion must be made at the time of the ruling, debatable. However, it is not debatable if it relates to rules of speaking, the priority of business, or a ruling on an undebatable motion. So it appears that it should have been also debatable. It's not amendable.
The debate is limited to the motion itself, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it always has to be germane. Yes.
Which is what we did. The question is whether it's 2/3 or a majority.
A majority or tie vote sustains the decision of the chair, can be reconsidered. I mean, we don't have to linger on this. We've lost one commissioner. We may be losing others.
I actually think that Commissioner Boshier is back on.
Okay. But I want to make that, and I consulted another, which I've lost now, on my cell phone, that said the same thing.
Okay, can you point me to the rule itself? I'm just not finding this, and so I want to make sure I have it right.
It's under using incidental motions. In the index, it was under appeal from decision of the chair.
I don't unfortunately have that under my incidental
Motion, page 118 to 120.
Okay. Let's see if I can.
Can you read the rule that you relied on?
Yeah, I relied on a one of the Robert's Rules cheat sheets on that one, but I'm trying to find it here.
I mean, the motion was specific to the ruling of appeal of the ruling of the chair.
Right.
So it doesn't matter what the ruling was. It's that there was a ruling was made.
And you would like to then proceed with adding this to the.
I would, and I'd like to proceed immediately.
Okay, give me a second. I found.
Don't want to wait until we lose more.
Yeah, I know.
More commissioners.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
We've been meeting now for almost 2.5 hours.
Yeah, hold on a second, Commissioner, please. Okay, Commissioner, I cannot find anything on this, but right now, so let's just proceed. So that would mean that we'd be moving it right now. Let's see. Let me see. Let's see. Let me take one more look. I think Rule 24 seems familiar for some reason, but I'm trying to find it.
Can we move to put this at the end of business and carry on with the rest of the approved agenda?
We could do that, and
well,
No, I object to that.
I
Okay.
object to that as well.
well, we'll make it easy. I'll just.
I mean, this is,
I'll
a mistake
remove-
was done here, and I think
Yeah,
we should
and-
correct it immediately.
Yeah, well, that's why I want to make sure a mistake was made before we move forward. I'll make it easy. In the interest of time, I'll remove the next two resolutions. I was the moving party for both those. I'll remove both of those, and we can move on to this. So this will be now the end of the commission business.
Could we still do those or no?
No.
Well, in the chat there, Ms. Minehan quoted to decision of the chair stands until reversed by a majority.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's perfect. Great. Thank you, Ms. Minahan. All right, great. So that was reversed by a majority. So here we are at the resolution, Commissioner McWood, that you brought up.
Okay. All right, I will do this as expeditiously as I can, because I think we already had quite a bit of discussion about this. So I would like to move the resolution, and I will read it because I think it's important to know exactly what we're voting on. Whereas ANC commissioners are elected to represent constituents no matter their age, ethnicity, race, gender, or income on proposals before the DC government, and should respect and reflect various viewpoints in the community. And whereas 2 current and re-elected ANC3C commissioners posed with 3 commissioners-elect for a photo, with 3 of them giving the finger an obscene gesture toward a poster displayed in a Cleveland Park store window, and one of the commissioners-elect on November 8th, 2022, tweeted the photo with the caption, quote, "The ANC majority has something to say. We're doing bike lanes. F the ops," unquote. And whereas the location of the photo was on the Cleveland Park Service Road in front of a business store window that displayed a SaveConnecticutAvenue.org poster, which is sponsored by people who oppose the current DDOT bike lane proposal. And whereas a screenshot of the tweet, including the picture, was posted on the Cleveland Park listserv on November 18, 2022, and was subsequently reported by several reporters and featured on an NBC news program. And whereas the poster that was the focus of the picture and tweet involved a continuing controversial issue about the potential impact of installing bike lanes on businesses and residents, that is a significant matter before ANC3C and on which commissioners are involved. And whereas this incident and its reporting undermine the credibility of ANC3C and the work that many commissioners do to support and faithfully represent the community and its residents, be it resolved that ANC3C condemns the decision to take the photo and to post it on social media, tweet it to the public, because it conflicts with the commissioner's responsibility to represent all SMD residents with respect and lack of bias. Be it further resolved that ANC3C strives to be transparent and professional in all its actions, and it does not underestimate the harm that has been done by this incident to ANC3C. Be it further resolved that ANC3C wants to reassure residents that commissioners are committed to continue to work to address concerns and issues, even when a decision like installing bike lanes has been made. This continuing effort on the part of ANC commissioners is intended to produce the highest quality of life for residents, businesses, and visitors. Be it further resolved that ANC3C will strive to act professionally and respectfully in service to the community. And be it further resolved that the chair and the commissioner for ANC 3C09 are authorized to represent the commission on this matter.
Do you need a second for the resolution?
Yes.
Yes.
Second.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, commissioners, is there any discussion of the resolution? So I obviously do not support the resolution, but I think that, you know, what the commissioners and commissioners-elect did, they shouldn't have done. I don't think they should have flicked off the sign, don't think they should have taken a photo of it, don't think they should have tweeted about it. This resolution seems to have a mistake, Commissioner McWood, in that it refers to the Save Connecticut Ave.org poster. The poster says, when I walked by today, I think it says, say no to Connecticut Avenue bike lanes. So, if you want to correct that, that'd be great. But the issues obviously I have with this are primarily procedural. I think that this is in violation of Rule 43. I think we should have gone through, and we talked about this briefly at the beginning of the call. I think we should have gone through the proper process. I also think that the avoiding of proper nouns imputes that the entirety of the incoming class of 3C could be at fault. Now, I don't think that we should be naming and shaming without going through a proper process. The process is laid out in Rule 63. I think that this, we could have done a more generous resolution acknowledging what happened, but talking more positively about what should happen in the future. I really think that the upcoming commission of 3C should work very hard on rules governing what is expected of commissioners, and other commissions have this. I also think that the commissioners coming on board may have a lot of issues building back trust in the community, and I hope that they are able to do so. I know some of them have no problem and have already built back trust, but I know that for others it's a little more difficult. And I hope that on the other side of things, that for all of us who will be represented by the commissioners on 3C in the future, will feel comfortable sharing our thoughts and feelings with those commissioners, and can forgive this behavior and move forward. And because as I said earlier, I think all are involved in ANC work because we want our community to be better. And I think being a good example of that is a great way to start. But when we do falter, let's offer each other a hand up rather than slapping a wrist. So that's my comment.
I want to make sure that I've stated the
sign
poster correctly. I thought I read actually off the picture that it said saveconnecticutavenue.org, but Commissioner Boucher says it is something else. Commissioner, can you?
It says say no to bike.
Say no to what? To
Commissioner Boucher, could you read that?
Yes, it says, I pasted in the chat, actually.
Oh, thank you. Perfect.
Thing that it says with the red thing around it.
Yeah.
What does it say? Say no to bike lanes?
No, it says, well, it says it's not the say no, but it has that say no symbol.
It's the no circle.
No circle. And then CONN Ave bike lanes. Con Ave bike lanes. But there's no period there. Periods anywhere. No periods anywhere.
Nor exclamation points.
Or exclamation points.
No
There's
punctuation.
No abbreviation.
That'll be a different resolution chastising the grammar.
If I can step
I'm
in.
a teacher. I can't help it.
If I can step in for a second, Commissioner McWood.
Yes.
Do you remember the Ghostbuster, the round circle with the red line through it?
Yeah.
That's what it had.
Okay.
Commissioner Reba, that is not as big of a throwback as
no,
you think.
right?
Yeah.
Just aging myself there a little bit.
Commissioner Boucher has a copy of it, if you a picture of it right there in her profile.
So if I say no to bike lanes, is that accurate?
I would count that as accurate.
Okay, I will substitute that.
Thank you, Commissioner McWood.
And I'd like to call the question. I think unless someone wants to.
I mean, Commissioner
Oh,
Paget.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I also think that you need to take out that it references the group, because it doesn't say that anywhere on this sign. I could have very well, and I maybe was, commenting on the graphic design of the sign and not the message of it, because there's no verbal context from me on that sign. I think that's left up to interpretation. I also worry about First Amendment right interpretations with doing this, and if then in the future, because we're criticizing commissioners who are not sworn in included in this, if I find something offensive that a past commissioner posts, like, am I allowed to then come before this body and do this same procedural resolution to chastise them for what they put out into the public realm? I would ask.
Commissioner Pagets, I'm not going to change anything with reference to the commissioners-elect or the commissioners. I took out everyone's name. I've served the ANC for 22 years. I've never had to even contemplate a resolution like this. I have never considered a resolution like this that someone else proposed. I think the behavior was offensive, and I think it caused great harm in the community. And I hope that commissioners will support this resolution, understanding. We can quibble about procedures, we can quibble about language, but I think it's very clear what the import of this resolution is. And it is a message to the community that this is not how we operate, and we value and we understand that we have the trust of the community and that we need to honor it and be very careful with that. And that is the import of this resolution.
I'd like to add that you know, the one thing that you learn when you go into public service is to be mindful of any and all perceptions. And the benchmark for that is if what you're doing would end up in the Washington Post or on the news, would you do it? And most people who make ill-fated decisions realize when playing Monday morning quarterback, no, I shouldn't have done it. If the mayor had done it, she too would have been reported on. She too would have been asked to explain and to apologize. When you're in an office and you position yourself accordingly, you're no longer a private citizen, you're a public figure. And whether you meant it or not, and I hope if you were not giving the finger to the purpose of the poster, I hope you weren't, and others weren't giving a finger to the establishment for putting the poster in their business window. So, you know, if you say I may have been the design, how do you know what we were doing? It was in an establishment, in a business that you represent as commissioners. So whether it been a finger at the poster, a finger at this business, a finger at the people who support it, it was a finger. And it's not easy to be accountable. You know, look, I didn't want to bring this up because it never went public. But, you know, you and Chair Finley went to Simon Gottlieb to complain about actions of me and wanted to take a public account because I had mispronounced your last name incorrectly when there was really no example.
Commissioner Reba, that's, first of all, it's not germane to what we're talking about.
It is because it's a pattern of behavior.
No, you're also misstating.
No,
what happened.
I'm not, because it involved me.
You are.
But
You are misstating. You are misstating.
When is someone in a public position just going to be accountable and just acknowledge it was wrong? I apologize. That wasn't my intent to offend. because you can't build trust unless you take accountability. That's all. So
And-
we could sit here and listen to these excuses and justifications and why I did and maybe I didn't. And how do you know? It's not a good look. And again, perception is everything. I'll leave it.
Commissioner Reba, just to correct the record, I went to Mr. Simon, who is then director of the Office of ANCs, based on your repeated mispronunciation of Commissioner Paggett's last name, which came out as a homophobic slur.
You're right. As an openly gay man and as openly gay
no.
commissioner, I made that slur. That's
No,
ridiculous.
no.
No one else on the call ever heard it. No one.
Oh, so
You're
I
right.
asked,
As an openly
I asked-
gay man, I would make that slur.
I didn't.
Come
I
on.
asked Mr.
Stop
Simon
it.
how to proceed, given the delicacy of the issue, and
Delicacy.
he
Well,
said
he
would-
gave you his answer.
he-
So
he-
this is your opportunity, Bo, to apologize because you were incorrect. And now you're admitting that you took this action against another commissioner.
No, I didn't take an action.
Okay.
I asked
Yes,
Mr.
you did.
Simon how
You
to
went to the head of
proceed,
the
much
ANC.
like
About that.
I didn't.
Commissioners, I'm sorry, it's 10:10 at night.
Yes.
We are now just going off in all
Yes.
directions.
Thank you, Commissioner
There's
Dyer.
so much dysfunction. I mean, I've only been on this commission for a very short time, but I'm like running away from this commission. It is so dysfunctional. I really think that, I think that Commissioner McWood has already called the question. Let's just have a vote.
No,
and move
it's
on.
not yet called the question. We still are in commission business. If Commissioner McWood wants to call the question, we can then vote on that, whether we want to close debate or we could just move to, we can. just-
I did move to call the question.
Okay, and is there a second?
Second.
Okay, great. So all those in favor of calling a question, raise your hand. Call a question means we no longer debate, we move to voting. Okay? That's okay, that's good. And all those opposed? All those abstaining? Okay, thank you. Otherwise, I was going to have to ask all those abstaining from abstaining. All right, so now that we are voting on it, let's vote on it. And
roll call, please.
All right. Rachel, would you do the honors?
Yes. Commissioner Reba,
Yes.
Commissioner Pagets,
Abstain.
Commissioner Finley,
Abstain.
Commissioner Siddiqui,
Abstain.
Commissioner Boucher,
Yes.
Commissioner Dyer,
Yes.
Commissioner McWood.
Yes.
Passes.
Great. Thank you very much. And in the interest of time, shall we call it a night?
I'd second that.
Is there a
No, I
motion?
think there should be SMP reports.
We need secretary reports and treasury reports. You're correct, Secretary Reba. Do you want to proceed with your secretary report?
Well, I'm hoping everybody had a brief moment to review the minutes. So thank you, Commissioner Finley. If there are no objections, or changes, I'd like to move the November 14, 2022 minutes of ANC3C. And if there's a tweak or something that needs to be made in the next day or two, just email me and I'll update the minutes accordingly, if that's okay. So
Great.
this time, if no objections, I'd like to go ahead and move the
There,
November
second
14.
for the motion.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Please raise your hand. Okay, thank you. The minutes, we've got Commissioner Pagets, was your hand up or down? For moving the minutes forward?
Oh, sorry.
Up. Okay, all those opposed, please raise your hand. All those abstaining?
I didn't
Okay,
have a
thank you.
chance to read them. I'm sorry, Lee Bryan.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioners Dyer and Boucher, for the purposes of the count, are you
Oh, I'm abstaining.
abstaining? Commissioner Boucher, is she gone? Okay, Commissioner Boucher is gone. All right, so the motion passes. Thank you, Secretary Reba. I hope you feel better. And now we move to Treasurer's report. Treasurer Siddiqui.
Thank you, Chair Finley. The they have to report one expenditure to our administrator, Rachel Worsham, in the amount of $553.41. And then Commissioner Reba, if you're still here, we just need your signature on the quarterly financial report. I had emailed it to you, but I'm happy to email it to you again. I think you
Okay,
might have left.
sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
I checked emails. I didn't see anything, but it may have
I'll
ended
email
up
it to you
in my
right now.
junk. Okay, thank you.
Great. All right, and now we move on to SMD reports. However, it is 10:15. Does anybody wish to do an SMD report? Does anybody think? I see that we've got. Let's first hear Cassandra and Robert. Did you both want to give a brief? I know you missed the announcements section.
I think we could wait a month.
Thank you.
I'm speaking for.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So that being said, does anybody want to continue or should we adjourn?
Well, so, I did actually, I thought there was a resolution honoring Commissioner McWood and Commissioner Reba and also Commissioner Boucher.
I withdrew those resolutions in the interest of time.
Well, I think they should be, can we reintroduce them?
If you want to.
I would reintroduce those resolutions.
Okay, do you want to read them?
You have to send them to me.
They're on our site.
No, they're not on the website.
They're not on the website.
Yeah.
I don't get anything on them, so I don't have.
Yeah, sorry.
I am happy to read them.
I mean, I'm happy to read it if somebody sends it to me, or else.
No, I'm more than happy to read it.
Go for it, Commissioner Siddiqui.
All right. So since I do have the floor, I do want to thank commissioners who have taken this time to serve. I think Commissioner Boucher left, and Commissioner Hoyt and Commissioner Fink aren't here, but they did serve, and want to thank them. Commissioner Gersten as well over the last 2 years served, and she left in the middle. So I want to thank her too. Commissioner Dyer, you came into the middle of this commission. You know, I think we should thank you for jumping in the middle and also staying up to speed with everything. You know, I know you said that you want to run away, and it's dysfunctional like that, but you know, it's appreciative of you that you stayed here and stayed here for that. Commissioner Finley, I want to thank you for serving as chair. In the language of Commissioner Dyer, the fact that you know, you served as chair for 2 years of this commission only shows your patience, your calmness. I think you have an encyclopedic knowledge of a number of issues from your legal background. And I really thank you for doing this for the last 2 years. You know, I'm just personally very appreciative, and I think we all should be very appreciative as well.
Thank you.
So with that, I just want to highlight, you know, why just want to highlight 2 commissioners today. You know, I think, and it'll become clear why they're being highlighted with resolutions. So first, I want to highlight Commissioner Reba. So one of the things that I did, I went through the past and looked at how long everyone had served. And it's a true honor. Commissioner McWood already stated the number of years she's served, but Reba, who I think still here,
I'm here.
Commissioner Reba Commissioner Reba, I don't know if you know this, but you are tied for the second longest serving commissioner on ANC3C. The other person that's tied with you is Phil Mendelson, and so we all know who that is, for 14 years, and so you've also served 14 years, and so we wanted to.
I've actually served 16 years.
Oh, you've served 16. Well, then you are okay.
Started in 2007.
All right. So I've changed that to 16. So you are the second longest serving. I have corrected that on the resolution. So I would like to read this resolution. Whereas Advisory Neighborhood Commission 3C, ANC3C is a nonpartisan neighborhood body made. Oh, sorry, before I read this, Commissioner Reba, my personal story for you. My personal story for you, Commissioner Reba, is you helped me co-author my first resolution. And that were a lot of phone calls, a lot of discussion. And, you know, I would like to say that it probably would not have happened had you not have helped me. So that's my personal sort of anecdote for you. Whereas Advisory Neighborhood Commission ANC3C is a nonpartisan neighborhood body made up of locally elected representatives called Advisory Neighborhood Commissioners. Whereas Advisory Neighborhood Commissioners serve 2-year terms without pay, are elected at DC elections in November in even numbered years, and are a unique feature of the district's home rule charter. Whereas Lee Brian Reba was first elected as Advisory Neighborhood Commissioner in 2007. Whereas Lee Brian Reba has served the community as an Advisory Neighborhood Commissioner for 16 years and has served as Secretary for a part of his tenure as well. Whereas Lee Brian Riva decided not to seek re-election during the election year 2022, whereas Lee Brian Riva is the second longest serving member in the commission's history, during which he has attended well over 100 ANC meetings. This does not include the countless committee meetings and meetings outside of official venues, discussing with applicants their neighborhood projects or issues. Whereas Lee Brian Riva has served as the ANC3C representative to the Smithsonian National Zoological Park, an important stakeholder in our neighborhood. Whereas Lee Brian Riva has worked for his constituents and community to serve in his unpaid and volunteer role, taking time away from family, friends, and work. Therefore, be it resolved that ANC3C congratulates Lee Brian Riva for his service as an advisory neighborhood commissioner to the community. Be it further resolved that ANC3C expresses its appreciation and gratitude for those contributions, wishes him well in all the years to come. Be it further resolved that ANC authorizes the chair of the commissioner for 3C05 to represent the commission on this matter.
Second.
Hey, all, I have to get going. Have a great night. I believe Commissioner Pagets will have to chair. I have been fading. I've been fighting a flu-like thing the past few days. But take care.
Vote on if you cool. Wonderful. And I have moved the resolution. I believe there was also a second.
Second.
Perfect.
Swale, could you just note that there was a glitch and that we're picking up the meeting again?
Yes. So I would like to note that there was a glitch where the meeting ended unintentionally, and now we are picking up the meeting again. Right before the meeting ended, I had moved a resolution in honor, congratulating Commissioner Lee Brian Riva, and Commissioner Dyer had seconded that resolution. Mr. Koff, I just want to clarify, the second longest serving commissioner is Commissioner Riva.
Yeah. I don't want to prolong this meeting, but I do want to say that I have thoroughly enjoyed serving with Lee Brian. I consider him a close friend. I think he's an exemplary commissioner. He really goes above and beyond in engaging with his constituents, and particularly with applicants. He really helps them, walks them through the process, make sure that they're talking to people in the community, that they reach consensus. He's great when he goes down to the HPRB. He really crosses all the T's, dots all the I's, and he always gets his proposals approved. He's incredibly thorough. I can only imagine how valuable he is to the president of UDC, because he's been really an essential cog in the wheel of this ANC. And beyond that, he has a great sense of humor. So when things are going awry and everybody's getting a little hot under the collar or tired, you can rely on Lee Brian to come up with something that kind of brings us all back together. So I think his service to the community will continue because that's what he does professionally. So we won't lose him, but I really do congratulate and honor him for all of his service. It's been I think a great personal cost because of how much effort he puts in, but I think everyone in the community is enriched by his service.
Thank you, Commissioner McWood. Any other commissioners would like to comment or discuss? Would anyone from the community like to comment or say anything? Wonderful. Yes, thank you, Gary. Thanks for that too. All right. Well, I would like to, since I've moved the resolution, I guess, and it's been seconded, we can move to a vote. All in favor? All right, I see. Oh, sorry, Commissioner Boucher, I pasted it in the chat.
Okay, one moment.
Okay, you may look at it.
Oh,
Congratulations.
yes.
Okay, I would imagine that. All right, so please raise your hands again, just so I can see them. And then Commissioner Reba, I saw yours. All right, resolution passes. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the last item on the agenda, and there's another resolution, and this is for Commissioner McWood. This is a resolution congratulating Commissioner McWood, and I will paste this in the chat as well. So Commissioner McWood, before I begin again, I was about to say this. When I joined the commission, if you remember, my seat was actually empty, and you were actually responsible for for pretty much representing my constituents. And the way I knew you did it really well was the largest issue in my community, which was Hearst Park and Pool. When I joined, everyone told me like, Commissioner McWood is doing a fantastic job in this. And so and I said, that's great. I'm very happy she's doing that. And I just wanted to say, Commissioner McWood, I'm grateful for that because I think the way you held that part of the community up and you held everyone up was really good. I also want to say like those people are really grateful to you for that. And so I think that even in that time when you were doing double duty, you had double impact in that way. And I will say the way that it came back to hit me was I couldn't live up to those standards for those people that were dealing with Hearst Park and Pool. And so I know how much hard work you did, given the amount of hard work I put in myself. And I also appreciate that you kept helping me and the community even after you didn't need to. Hence, every time I sent an email about Hearst Park and Pool, I also CC'd you on it. So that's kind of my, just want to make sure, since I'm moving the resolution, I just want to make sure that that I get to say like why I think this is really important. And I just wanted to thank you for that, Commissioner McWood, and appreciate that from the community. So I'll read the resolution now. Whereas Advisory Neighborhood Commission 3C, ANC3C is a nonpartisan neighborhood body made up of locally elected representatives called Advisory Neighborhood Commissioners. Whereas Advisory Neighborhood Commissioners serve 2-year terms without pay, are elected at DC elections in November and even numbered years, and are a unique feature of the district's home rule charter. Whereas Nancy McWood was first elected as an Advisory Neighborhood Commissioner in 2000. Whereas Nancy McWood has served the community as an Advisory Neighborhood Commissioner for 22 years, the longest serving member in the commission's history, and has served as chair for ANC3C for most of her tenure, and chair or co-chair of the Planning and Zoning Committee for all 22 years. Whereas Nancy McWood's tenure is the longest tenure of any commissioner in the history of ANC3C, participating in over 200 ANC meetings and over 100 committee meetings. This does not include the countless meetings outside of official venues, discussing with applicants their neighborhood projects or issues. Whereas Nancy McWood has served as ANC3C representative to the boards of both the Treguerin and Rosedale Conservancies. Whereas Nancy McWood decided not to seek re-election during the year 2022. Whereas Nancy McWood has worked for her constituents and community to serve in this unpaid and volunteer role, taking time away from family, friends, and work. Therefore, be it resolved that ANC3C congratulates Nancy McWood for her service as an Advisory Neighborhood Commissioner. Be it further resolved that ANC3C expresses its appreciation and gratitude for those contributions and wishes her well in all the years to come. Be it further resolved, the ANC authorized the chair and the commissioner for 3C05 to represent the commission on this matter.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Reba. Commissioners, any discussion, any comments?
Go ahead, Commissioner Dyer.
I just wanted to say I'm the newest member of this commission, even though I had a couple of comments before that weren't as glowing about this commission. It has been a bright spot working with Commissioner McWood. Working with Commissioner McWood, she has provided a lot of guidance and leadership to a new commissioner, has also helped to represent the constituents in my SMD, which will soon be combined with Nancy's SMD starting in January. And she has, she's very thoughtful. She has a reservoir of knowledge that I can't even begin to comprehend how much she knows. And she also is a dogged representative of her constituents, and she always wants to do the right thing. And I think that she, as I said before, has been a bright spot in my work here on the commission. And thank you, Commissioner McWood.
Mr. Koff, I'll let you speak as soon as we make sure if any other commissioner would like to add anything. Commissioner Reba?
Thank you. Well, I don't even know where to begin, but I'll keep this brief and impactful. I know this is not the end for Nancy McWood. I know this is not the end for Commissioner McWood's engagement within her community and within 3C. losing Commissioner McWood is a huge and leaves a huge hole in 3C with her breadth of knowledge, historical background and information that runs the gamut from historic preservation to DCPS to DDOT. I don't know respectfully where the commission is headed without this institutional knowledge, without this leadership, without the records of information that she holds, not only in her head, but holds in her heart. She has served her SMD with passion. She's been steadfast with her convictions. She's provided insight and has filled the gaps in many conversations and resolutions. It's, for me, even though I'm not and chose not to run again, for me, it's really, it's devastating to see someone with her caliber of professionalism and commitment and dedication to not run again. And it's been a true honor. I consider Commissioner McWood family. I know that I can lean on her and she'll be able to lean on me moving forward. Like myself, it's not the end. And Nancy, you're most deserving of this recognition. And I just wish you all the very best and a safe and happy holiday. I love you. And it's really, truly been my esteemed pleasure to serve with you on this commission for my 16 years. And you've been an intricate part in being there for me and being there when I needed you and being there when I needed to lean on you. So thank you. If I could hug you, I would. If I could give you a kiss, I would. So thank you for your service.
Commissioner Rebo. Any other commissioners? If not, I think we'll go to Mr. Koff because I know he had his hand up, and then Mr. Nash after that.
First, Lee has done better than I could do. I did not prepare any remarks for this. If I needed remarks, it would be amazing because I've known Nancy McWood for all of her years on this commission. I was chair before her years began, and I knew her even in those years. There has been no person in my experience, not only with ANC3C, but with any of the ANCs of the District of Columbia, who has served not merely with such longevity, but with such distinction as Nancy McWood. I was privileged to be a constituent. I think others who tried to redistrict her to their endless shame have moved her from one side of the street to another, to beyond. She still has been my commissioner for many of the 50 years that I've lived in Cleveland Park, and she's upheld the highest degree of integrity throughout that period of time. That is not to be said for all, but tonight we're being gracious. I think that there is an enormous hole being left in a commission that needs more than perhaps at any time that I've known of ANCs at all, much less ANC3C. There is more need now for the civility that is given lip service but not practiced far more often. Nobody could have provided that, plus the comprehensive knowledge, not only on zoning matters or housing matters, but you all witnessed, and I'm speaking to those who are no longer on this line, but the 72 people who were on the line in part saw a person who could reach deep, deep, deep into Robert's Rules of Order and speak in a commanding way, speak power to those in power through the skill of her mind agitating for the good of the community. And Nancy, I don't have even enough words, nor would I take the time if I had the words, but you have been a jewel of ANC3C. You will be severely missed. You are a wonderful role model for the gentleman on the left of the magic squares who I see. I don't know if the others see the same person. Rick Nash doesn't need you as a role model, but you would be a good role model for him. And if anyone turns Siddiqui around, it will be the memories of serving with you, and you're on your way to turning around, and I'll be one of your supporters if you can serve with 1/100th of the finesse that Nancy McWood served on this commission. Look to her model, not to a person who has guided you in the past, who I urge you to look perhaps away from while you remember the role that Nancy McWood has played all these many years. Thank you, dear Nancy. Next time I see you, or Judy and I see you, you'll definitely get a hug. But you know you've been in my hearts, our hearts, as 52 years, maybe it's 53, living in ANC3C. It's been an enormous privilege to have you as our commissioner. Please, Mr. Siddiqui, stand up to her in succeeding her, recognizing the districts have all been botched around a little bit, but you're my commissioner now, not Nancy. So stand up to Nancy's experience, and I'll learn to appreciate you as well. Thank you, Nancy. I'll vote for you for anything, any day that I can.
Thank you, Mr. Koff, and yeah, and hence I introduced this resolution. Mr. Nash, you're next, and then we'll go to Mr. Rosenman, Ms. Marilyn Stein, and then Ms. Maureen Minahan.
Oh, Commissioner Siddiqui, thank you. I've known Nancy for 20 years, and I am not going to repeat, nor could I come close to repeating, what has been said here tonight about Nancy's contributions. And even after these years of knowing her and having the privilege of having worked with her on some various things, I continue to be amazed by her knowledge and experience. I mean, Nancy knows more about zoning law than many distinguished practitioners of the field in this city. And I know for a fact that, many of the things that we have come to appreciate and take for granted in the community, whether it's the renovation of John Eaton School or the new library or the conservancies that we have that enrich the life here, would not have happened without Nancy. And, it's not only her experience that she brought to play, but it's really the trust and the respect that she has earned from the community and from officials around the city that, has made her effective and benefited us all. But I think her true contribution is, the respect and civility and care with which she has approached the job, both as commissioner and as chair. And it comes down to the principles that she stood for: integrity, listening, representing constituents, respecting the views of other commissioners and their constituents. And, I've heard from so many people in the community that as chair, they knew that even though she wasn't their SMD commissioner, she was working as hard for them as if they had been constituents in her own SMD. And while I have the floor, I do want to thank Lee Brian Reba. I'm sorry that I won't have the privilege of working with him directly. But, Lee Brian, in my observation, has been steady and dedicated and really, a true north compass of integrity on this commission. And I want to thank Commissioner Boucher and Jocelyn Dyer, who's, been on the commission only a year, but just has had an outsized impact for her constituents. And, I can only hope, to follow and live up in some small way to the example that all of these commissioners, and in particular Nancy and Jocelyn, have set in representing the interests of their district. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nash, Commissioner-elect Nash. Mr. Rosenman?
Thank you, Sonny. at this point in the meeting, everything that needs to have been said has been said, but not everybody has said it. So I'm going to try to add just one quick point to what the grand eloquence of the people who've preceded me have said deservedly about Nancy McWood. Well, maybe a couple of things. The first thing is, beyond that encyclopedic knowledge that crosses so many areas of governance that has been recognized by your ANC colleagues and constituents, is to note that that expertise has been recognized citywide. And you have brought credit to the ANC and to our neighborhood through your work within and beyond it. A second thing that I would like to add is that beyond that knowledge has been a wisdom that is, in my mind, profound. I have seen you time and time again lead from the back of a room, lead with calmness when, well, we all know I never lose my temper or get upset about anything, but you have just modeled effective, composed clarity that comes not only from knowledge, but from wisdom. And the last thing I want to say is that all of that has been informed, as others have said, by your heart, which is immense and which I know Mary Lee too, have felt a gift to be around. So thank you. Lee Bryan, I'm sorry, not as a footnote, but thank you too. I've really appreciated your work on the commission.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenman. Ms. Maureen Minahan, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your last name.
It's fine. You wouldn't know me. We've had some contact long ago, but I just wanted to speak as kind of regular person. I recognize many of the people who are on this now as people who've been very active in the neighborhood and you've probably had a lot of contact with. We moved into our house here in your district, in your SMD, in July of 2001. And so shortly after that, I went to my first ANC meeting and I remember you there and I was so impressed by the way you conducted yourself and your knowledge and all of the things that everyone else has spoken about this evening. And I continued to go to the meetings for a while, and then children came along and I got busy and I stopped going. But I always knew that I didn't feel like I had to go because like there was this competence there that we would be well represented. I read the Northwest Current and I saw everything that you put out and I never had to worry about it. And in the last, I'd say 12 months, I've had to sort of come back to life here and start paying a little bit more attention. And I see you in the same way that I saw you almost 22 years ago, always taking the high road. I think it's Michelle Obama who said, when they take the low road, you take the high road. And I watch you do it. I watch you do it with grace and always making sure that people have an opportunity to have their voices heard. And even if they had an opportunity and they hadn't spoken up, but they have an opinion now, you've given them the time to do that. And as a regular person, just knowing that there are people out there advocating for that, it goes so far. And I just felt like I'd be remiss if I didn't say a personal thank you to you here tonight. I'm so sorry that this evening has ended the way that it has ended. Maybe it makes it easier for you to go because you're like, I'm just so done. I don't know. But I'm sorry that was the case because I know I'm not alone in how I feel and just the deep gratitude that I have for you and for all of your 2 decades and plus of service to us. And so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was nice. Any other community members or commissioners would like to say anything?
I would, Commissioner Siddiqui.
Please go ahead.
I would not only like to have this placed on the record, but if I may, I'd like to have it as part of my SMD report. So I will send it and you can copy and paste it for the minutes. I would appreciate that. Can I have your commitment?
Well, you're still the secretary, so you can paste it in the minutes. But
Well, I
yes,
won't
this will
be
be
here.
part, this will be
Well, I
part of the
will-
record.
Okay, but I won't get the minutes for this meeting, but we'll see how that goes. First, I want to say that I'm sorry I couldn't be with all of you face to face this evening. I am home recovering from COVID. While this is my first bout with the coronavirus, virus is real and remains deadly for many. Thankfully, I'm on the mend and anticipate being fully recovered before the holidays. I'm hoping everyone stays safe this holiday season. As this is my last SMD report, I want my fellow commissioners and residents alike.
So Commissioner Reba, is it okay if we vote on the resolution first and then?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay.
I didn't want to stop you because, you know, but I do want to make sure this gets voted on and then we can move on to that if that's okay. So commissioners.
Can I just say something very quickly? Because I know
Please.
I know this meeting is going on for a very long time. I am not going to disappear from the community. I am invested in the community. I haven't quite figured out what I'm going to do. I do have other organizations that I've been participating with for a long time, so I will continue that. But you don't do something for 22 years and put sort of your heart and soul into it and then just say, okay, see ya. That's not what I intend. That's not what I intend to do. But I am very confident that Rick Nash is going to represent the community, the part of my community that is still there, ably and with distinction. I have absolutely no doubts. I've always known that if my dream candidate, when I decided I didn't want to run it again, would be Rick Nash. So it worked out beautifully for me. But I also want to say because a lot of different voices have been represented here, and some are people in leadership, and some aren't. Some, as Maureen described herself, as just regular resident who tuned in sometimes to the ANC and other times didn't. But I take it as a high compliment that that you felt you didn't have to tune in to every ANC meeting. You didn't have to show up. You didn't have to put your life on hold and wonder what in the world are those folks doing and how's it going to impact me and how am I going to undo whatever damage they're doing. That really is a high compliment to me because that's how I approach the ANC. It wasn't my agenda. It never has been about my agenda. It has always been about the community's agenda, and many times there were multiple community agendas, but in most cases we were able to figure it out. But the other thing I want to say is that the real role of an ANC commissioner is what happens away from the meetings. It's what happens after a decision is made. You know, the government, DDOT, OP, they're going to come in. They know what they want to do. 9 times out of 10, they're going to get to do what they want to do. They've got, you know, the situation is grease. It's going to happen. That is when I think an ANC commissioner is most valuable. And that's where I hope I made a contribution, because that's when I would dig in, is to talk to the community, to figure out, okay, how can we make this better? How can we improve it? How can we figure out what our priorities are and convince the government to do what we need them to do, so that things weren't happening to us, that we were sharing in whatever the vision was, and we were molding it so that it was something that we could be proud of and that we could feel good about. So whether it was holding monthly construction meetings about the Giant for 3 years, or at the library, or whatever it was, the secret meetings I had with the Giant folks or with the cathedral. All of it was what I thought an ANC commissioner should do. So I haven't, in my eyes, I haven't been extraordinary. I knew absolutely nothing when I became an ANC commissioner, other than having worked on a project with my neighbors, and they came to me and said, please run. So I've learned a lot, and I'm grateful that people have found what I learned and my experience to be valuable. But I now appreciate that I do have this knowledge and I do have this experience, and I don't want to sort of leave it on the doorstep. It's going to take a little time for me to figure out how to do it, but I'm definitely not going to fade into the woodwork. I'm not going to go away, but it will be a new role. So thank you all very much. I really appreciate that you all stuck it out and even came back to the meeting.
Great, thank you. Wonderful. Thank you, Commissioner McWood. Any other final comments? So it's been seconded. Should we move to a vote? All right, all those in favor, please raise your hands so I can see and count. I see one, Commissioner Boucher, thank you. Commissioner McWood, I assume you're going to abstain, so which is perfectly fine. So we have 4. Okay, thank you. Anyone who would vote no? 0 votes for no. And then any abstentions? Commissioner McWood, thank you. Wonderful. All right. So SMD reports. I know Commissioner Reba wanted to do his.
Can I motion to adjourn?
You may.
I'm really sorry. I'm so tired.
Okay. Is there a second? All right, we have a second. All those in favor of adjourning, please raise your hand. We have 1, 2. Commissioner Boucher, I assume you're a third vote. All those against adjourning, please raise your hand. Commissioner Reba. All those abstaining, I'm abstaining from adjourning because, as you all know, I do not like to end meetings prematurely. But the adjournments have had it. Thank you all so much for coming back here. Appreciate you all. And then, yeah, so that concludes our meeting for the year, and then we'll be back in the new year. Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. Cool. Wonderful. And I have moved the resolution. I believe there was also a second.
Seconded.
Perfect.
Swale, could you just note that there was a glitch and that we're
Yes.
picking up the meeting again?
Yes. So I would like to note that there was a glitch where the meeting ended unintentionally, and now we are picking up the meeting again. Right before the meeting ended, I had moved a resolution in honor, congratulating Commissioner Lee Brian Reba, and Commissioner Dyer had seconded that resolution. Mr. Koff, I just want to clarify, the second longest serving commissioner is Commissioner Reba.
Yeah. I don't want to prolong this meeting, but I do want to say that I have thoroughly enjoyed serving with Lee Brian. I consider him a close friend. I think he's an exemplary commissioner. He really goes above and beyond in engaging with his constituents, and particularly with applicants. He really helps them, walks them through the process, make sure that they're talking to people in the community, that they reach consensus. He's great when he goes down to the HPRB. He really crosses all the T's, dots all the I's, and he always gets his proposals approved. He's incredibly thorough. I can only imagine how valuable he is to the president of UDC, because he's been really an essential cog in the wheel of this ANC. And beyond that, he has a great sense of humor. So when things are going awry and everybody's getting a little hot under the collar or tired, you can rely on Lee Bryant to come up with something that kind of brings us all back together. So I think his service to the community will continue because that's what he does professionally. So we won't lose him, but I really do congratulate and honor him for all of his service. It's been I think a great personal cost because of how much effort he puts in, but I think everyone in the community is enriched by his service.
Thank you, Commissioner McWood. Any other commissioners would like to comment or discuss? Would anyone from the community like to comment or say anything? Wonderful. Yes, thank you, Gary. Thanks for that too. All right. Well, I would like to, since I've moved the resolution, I guess, and it's been seconded, we can move to a vote. All in favor? All right. I see. Oh, sorry, Commissioner Boucher, I pasted it in the chat.
Okay, one moment.
Okay. You may look at it. It's.
Oh, yes.
Okay. I would imagine that. All right. So please raise your hands again, just so I can see them. And then Commissioner Reba, I saw yours. All right, resolution passes. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the last item on the agenda, and there's another resolution, and this is for Commissioner McWood. This is a resolution congratulating Commissioner McWood, and I will paste this in the chat as well. So Commissioner McWood, before I begin again, I was about to say this. When I joined the commission, if you remember, my seat was actually empty, and you were actually responsible for for pretty much representing my constituents. And the way I knew you did it really well was the largest issue in my community, which was Hearst Park and Pool. When I joined, everyone told me like, Commissioner McWood is doing a fantastic job in this. And so I said, that's great. I'm very happy she's doing that. And I just wanted to say, Commissioner McWood, I'm grateful for that because I think the way you held that part of the community up and you held everyone up was really good. I also want to say like those people are really grateful to you for that. And so I think that even in that time when you were doing double duty, you had double impact in that way. And I will say the way that it came back to hit me was I couldn't live up to those standards for those people that were dealing with Hearst Park and Pool. And so I know how much hard work you did, given the amount of hard work I put in myself. And I also appreciate that you kept helping me and the community even after you didn't need to. Hence, every time I sent an email about Hearst Park and Pool, I also CC'd you on it. So that's kind of my, just want to make sure, since I'm moving the resolution, I just want to make sure that that I get to say like why I think this is really important. And I just wanted to thank you for that, Commissioner McWood, and appreciate that from the community. So I'll read the resolution now. Whereas Advisory Neighborhood Commission 3C, ANC3C is a nonpartisan neighborhood body made up of locally elected representatives called Advisory Neighborhood Commissioners. Whereas Advisory Neighborhood Commissioners serve 2-year terms without pay, are elected at DC elections in November and even numbered years, and are a unique feature of the district's home rule charter. Whereas Nancy McWood was first elected as an Advisory Neighborhood Commissioner in 2000. Whereas Nancy McWood has served the community as an Advisory Neighborhood Commissioner for 22 years, the longest serving member in the commission's history, and has served as chair for ANC3C for most of her tenure, and chair or co-chair of the Planning and Zoning Committee for all 22 years. Whereas Nancy McWood's tenure is the longest tenure of any commissioner in the history of ANC3C, participating in over 200 ANC meetings and over 100 committee meetings. This does not include the countless meetings outside of official venues, discussing with applicants their neighborhood projects or issues. Whereas Nancy McWood has served as ANC3C representative to the boards of both the Treguarren and Rosedale Conservancies. Whereas Nancy McWood decided not to seek re-election during the year 2022. Whereas Nancy McWood has worked for her constituents and community to serve in this unpaid and volunteer role, taking time away from family, friends, and work. Therefore, be it resolved that ANC3C congratulates Nancy McWood for her service as an Advisory Neighborhood Commissioner. Be it further resolved that ANC3C expresses its appreciation and gratitude for those contributions and wishes her well in all the years to come. Be it further resolved, the ANC authorized the chair and the commissioner for 3C05 to represent the commission on this matter.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Reba. Commissioners, any discussion, any comments?
Oh, go ahead, Commissioner Dyer.
I just wanted to say I'm the newest member of this commission, and even though I had a couple of comments before that weren't as glowing about this commission, it has been a bright spot working with Commissioner McWood. Working with Commissioner McWood, she has provided a lot of guidance and leadership to a new commissioner, has also helped to represent the constituents in my SMD, which will soon be combined with Nancy's SMD starting in January. And she has, she's very thoughtful. She has a reservoir of knowledge that I can't even begin to comprehend how much she knows. And she also is a dogged representative of her constituents, and she always wants to do the right thing. And I think that she, as I said before, has been a bright spot in my work here on the commission. And thank you, Commissioner McWood.
Mr. Koff, I'll let you speak as soon as we make sure if any other commissioner would like to add anything. Commissioner Riva?
Thank you. Well, I don't even know where to begin, but I'll keep this brief and impactful. I know this is not the end for Nancy McWood. I know this is not the end for Commissioner McWood's engagement within her community and within 3C. Losing Commissioner McWood is a huge and leaves a huge hole in 3C with her breadth of knowledge, historical background and information that runs the gamut from historic preservation to DCPS to DDOT. I don't know respectfully where the commission is headed without this institutional knowledge, without this leadership, without the records of information that she holds, not only in her head, but holds in her heart. She has served her SMD with passion. She's been steadfast with her convictions. She's provided insight and has filled the gaps in many conversations and resolutions. It's, for me, even though I'm not and chose not to run again, for me, it's really, it's devastating to see someone with her caliber of professionalism and commitment and dedication to not run again. And it's been a true honor. I consider Commissioner McWood family. I know that I can lean on her and she'll be able to lean on me moving forward. Like myself, it's not the end. And Nancy, you're most deserving of this recognition. And I just wish you all the very best and a safe and happy holiday. I love you. And it's really, truly been my esteemed pleasure to serve with you on this commission for my 16 years. And you've been an intricate part in being there for me and being there when I needed you and being there when I needed to lean on you. So thank you. If I could hug you, I would. If I could give you a kiss, I would. So thank you for your service.
Commissioner Rebo. Any other commissioners? If not, I think we'll go to Mr. Koff because I know he had his hand up, and then Mr. Nash after that.
First, Lee has done better than I could do. I did not prepare any remarks for this. If I needed remarks, it would be amazing because I've known Nancy McWood for all of her years on this commission. I was chair before her years began, and I knew her even in those years. There has been no person in my experience, not only with ANC3C, but with any of the ANCs of the District of Columbia, who has served not merely with such longevity, but with such distinction as Nancy McWood. I was privileged to be a constituent. I think others who tried to redistrict her, to their endless shame, have moved her from one side of the street to another, to beyond. She still has been my commissioner for many of the 50 years that I've lived in Cleveland Park. And she's upheld the highest degree of integrity throughout that period of time. That is not to be said for all, but tonight we're being gracious. I think that there is an enormous hole being left in a commission that needs more than perhaps at any time that I've known of ANCs at all, much less ANC3C. There is more need now for the civility that is given lip service but not practiced far more often. Nobody could have provided that, plus the comprehensive knowledge, not only on zoning matters or housing matters, but you all witnessed, and I'm speaking to those who are no longer on this line, but the 72 people who were on the line in part saw a person who could reach deep, deep, deep into Robert's Rules of Order and speak in a commanding way, speak power to those in power through the skill of her mind agitating for the good of the community. And Nancy, I don't have even enough words, nor would I take the time if I had the words, but you have been a jewel of ANC3C. You will be severely missed. You are a wonderful role model for the gentleman on the left of the magic squares who I see. I don't know if the others see the same person. Rick Nash doesn't need you as a role model, but you would be a good role model for him. And if anyone turns Siddiqui around, it will be the memories of serving with you, and you're on your way to turning around, and I'll be one of your supporters if you can serve with 1/100th of the finesse that Nancy McWood served on this commission. Look to her model, not to a person who has guided you in the past, who I urge you to look perhaps away from while you remember the role that Nancy McWood has played all these many years. Thank you, dear Nancy. Next time I see you, or Judy and I see you, you'll definitely get a hug. But you know you've been in my hearts, our hearts, as 52 years, maybe it's 53, living in ANC3C. It's been an enormous privilege to have you as our commissioner. Please, Mr. Siddiqui, stand up to her in succeeding her, recognizing the districts have all been botched around a little bit, but you're my commissioner now, not Nancy. So stand up to Nancy's experience, and I'll learn to appreciate you as well. Thank you, Nancy. I'll vote for you for anything, any day that I can.
Thank you, Mr. Koff, and yeah, and hence I introduce this resolution. Mr. Nash, you're next, and then we'll go to Mr. Rosenman, Ms. Mary Lee Stein, and then Ms. Maureen Minahan.
Oh, Commissioner Siddiqui, thank you. I've known Nancy for 20 years, and I am not going to repeat, nor could I come close to repeating, what has been said here tonight about Nancy's contributions. And even after these years of knowing her and having the privilege of having worked with her on some various things, I continue to be amazed by her knowledge and experience. I mean, Nancy knows more about zoning law than many distinguished practitioners of the field in this city. And I know for a fact that, many of the things that we have come to appreciate and take for granted in the community, whether it's the renovation of John Eaton School or the new library or the conservancies that we have that enrich the life here, would not have happened without Nancy. And, it's not only her experience that she brought to play, but it's really the trust and the respect that she has earned from the community and from officials around the city that, has made her effective and benefited us all. But I think her true contribution is, the respect and civility and care with which she has approached the job, both as commissioner and as chair. And it comes down to the principles that she stood for: integrity, listening, representing constituents, respecting the views of other commissioners and their constituents. And, I've heard from so many people in the community that as chair, they knew that even though she wasn't their SMD commissioner, she was working as hard for them as if they had been constituents in her own SMD. And while I have the floor, I do want to thank Lee Brian Reba. I'm sorry that I won't have the privilege of working with him directly. But Lee Brian, in my observation, has been steady and dedicated and really, a true North Compass of integrity on this commission. And I want to thank Commissioner Boucher and Jocelyn Dyer, who's, been on the commission only a year, but just has had an outsized impact for her constituents. And, I can only hope, to follow and live up in some small way to the example that all of these commissioners, and in particular Nancy and Jocelyn, have set in representing the interests of their district. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nash, Commissioner-elect Nash. Mr. Rosenman?
Thank you, Sonny. At this point in the meeting, everything that needs to have been said has been said, but not everybody has said it. So I'm going to try to add just one quick point to what the grand eloquence of the people who've preceded me have said deservedly about Nancy McWood. Well, maybe a couple of things. The first thing is, beyond that encyclopedic knowledge that crosses so many areas of governance that has been recognized by your ANC colleagues and constituents, is to note that expertise has been recognized citywide. And you have brought credit to the ANC and to our neighborhood through your work within and beyond it. A second thing that I would like to add is that beyond that knowledge has been a wisdom that is, in my mind, profound. I have seen you time and time again lead from the back of a room, lead with calmness when, well, we all know I never lose my temper or get upset about anything, but you have just modeled effective, composed clarity that comes not only from knowledge, but from wisdom. And the last thing I want to say is that all of that has been informed, as others have said, by your heart, which is immense and which I know Mary Lee too, have felt a gift to be around. So thank you. Lee Brian, I'm sorry, not as a footnote, but thank you too. I've really appreciated your work on the commission.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenman. Ms. Maureen Minahan, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your last name.
That's fine. You wouldn't know me. We've had some contact long ago, but I just wanted to speak as kind of regular person. I recognize many of the people who are on this now as people who've been very active in the neighborhood and you've probably had a lot of contact with. We moved into our house here in your district, in your SMD, in July of 2001. And so shortly after that, I went to my first ANC meeting, and I remember you there, and I was so impressed by the way you conducted yourself and your knowledge and all of the things that everyone else has spoken about this evening. And I continued to go to the meetings for a while, and then children came along and I got busy and I stopped going. But I always knew that I didn't feel like I had to go because like there was this competence there. that we would be well represented. I read the Northwest Current and I saw everything that you put out, and I never had to worry about it. And in the last, I'd say 12 months, I've had to sort of come back to life here and start paying a little bit more attention. And I see you in the same way that I saw you almost 22 years ago, always taking the high road. I think it's Michelle Obama who said, when they take the low road, you take the high road. And I watch you do it. I watch you do it with grace, and always making sure that people have an opportunity to have their voices heard. And even if they had an opportunity and they hadn't spoken up, but they have an opinion now, you've given them the time to do that. And as a regular person, just knowing that there are people out there advocating for that, it goes so far. And I just felt like I'd be remiss if I didn't say a personal thank you to you here tonight. I am so sorry that this evening has ended the way that it has ended. Maybe it makes it easier for you to go because you're like, I'm just so done. I don't know. But I'm sorry that that was the case, because I know I'm not alone in how I feel, and just the deep gratitude that I have for you and for all of your 2 decades and plus of service to us. And so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was nice. Any other community members or commissioners would like to say anything?
I would, Commissioner Siddiqui.
Please go ahead.
I would not only like to have this placed on the record, but if I may, I'd like to have it as part of my SMD report. So I will send it and you can copy and paste it for the minutes. I would appreciate that. Can I have your commitment?
Well, you're still the secretary, so you can paste it in the minutes. But
Well,
yes, this will be part of the record.
Okay, but I won't get the minutes for this meeting, but we'll see how that goes. First, I want to say that I'm sorry I couldn't be with all of you face to face this evening. I am home recovering from COVID. While this is my first bout with the coronavirus, the virus is real and remains deadly for many. Thankfully, I'm on the mend and anticipate being fully recovered before the holidays. I'm hoping everyone stays safe this holiday season. As this is my last SMD report, I want my fellow commissioners and residents alike.
So Commissioner Reba, is it okay if we vote on the resolution first and then?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay.
I didn't want to stop you because, you know, but I do want to make sure this gets voted on, and then we can move on to that if that's okay. So commissioners.
Can I just say something very quickly? Because I know
Please.
I know this meeting is going on for a very long time. I am not going to disappear from the community. I am invested in the community. I haven't quite figured out what I'm going to do. I do have other organizations that I've been participating with for a long time, so I will continue that. But you don't do something for 22 years and put sort of your heart and soul into it and then just say, okay, see ya. That's not what I intend. That's not what I intend to do. But I'm very confident that Rick Nash is going to represent the community, the part of my community that is still there, ably and with distinction. I have absolutely no doubts. I've always known that if my dream candidate, when I decided I didn't want to run it again, would be Rick Nash. So it worked out beautifully for me. But I also want to say because a lot of different voices have been represented here, and some are people in leadership, and some aren't. Some, as Maureen described herself, as just regular resident who tuned in sometimes to the ANC and other times didn't. But I take it as a high compliment that that you felt you didn't have to tune in to every ANC meeting. You didn't have to show up. You didn't have to put your life on hold and wonder what in the world are those folks doing and how's it going to impact me and how am I going to undo whatever damage they're doing. That really is a high compliment to me, because that's how I approach the ANC. It wasn't my agenda. It never has been about my agenda. It has always been about the community's agenda, and many times there were multiple community agendas, but in most cases we were able to figure it out. But the other thing I want to say is that the real role of an ANC commissioner is what happens away from the meetings. It's what happens after a decision is made. You know, the government, DDOT, OP, they're going to come in, they know what they want to do. 9 times out of 10, they're going to get to do what they want to do. They've got, you know, the situation is grease, it's going to happen. That is when I think an ANC commissioner is most valuable. And that's where I hope I made a contribution, because that's when I would dig in, is to talk to the community, to figure out, okay, how can we make this better? How can we improve it? How can we figure out what our priorities are and convince the government to do what we need them to do, so that things weren't happening to us, that we were sharing in whatever the vision was, and we were molding it so that it was something that we could be proud of and that we could feel good about. So whether it was, you know, holding monthly construction meetings about the Giant for 3 years, or at the library, or whatever it was, the secret meetings I had with the Giant folks or with the cathedral, all of it was what I thought an ANC commissioner should do. So I haven't, in my eyes, I haven't been extraordinary. I knew absolutely nothing when I became an ANC commissioner, other than having worked on a project with my neighbors, and they came to me and said, please run. So I've learned a lot, and I'm grateful that people have found what I learned and my experience to be valuable. But I now appreciate that I do have this knowledge and I do have this experience, and I don't want to sort of leave it on the doorstep. It's going to take a little time for me to figure out how to do it, but I'm definitely not going to fade into the woodwork. I'm not going to go away, but it will be a new role. So thank you all very much. I really appreciate that you all stuck it out and even came back to the meeting.
Great, thank you. Wonderful, thank you, Commissioner McWood. Any other final comments? So it's been seconded. Should we move to a vote? All right, all those in favor, please raise your hands so I can see and count. I see one, Commissioner Boucher, thank you. Commissioner McWood, I assume you're going to abstain, so which is perfectly fine. So we have 4. Okay, thank you. Anyone who would vote no? 0 votes for no. And then any abstentions? Commissioner McWood, thank you. Wonderful. All right. So SMD reports. I know Commissioner Reba wanted to do
Can I motion to adjourn?
You may.
I'm really sorry. I'm so tired.
Okay, is there a second? All right, we have a second. All those in favor of adjourning, please raise your hand. We have 1, 2. Commissioner Boucher, I assume you're a third vote. All those against adjourning, please raise your hand. Commissioner Reba. All those abstaining, I'm abstaining from adjourning because, as you all know, I do not like to end meetings prematurely. But the adjournments have had it. Thank you all so much for coming back here. Appreciate you all. And then, yeah, so that concludes our meeting for the year, and then we'll be back in the new year. Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.